Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to be hopping into the first game of the night for Optimal League Season 3 playoff semifinals between 8K Gaming and Fallen Gaming. My name is LoudThoughts. I am joined tonight by Obongo. How are you doing tonight, my man? Are you excited for the Best of 5 series we have coming up tonight?
Yep, we've got ourselves the first of 2 semifinals series this week. First one being between 8K Gaming and Fallen Gaming, like you just mentioned, and we've gotten ourselves underway into Champion Select. The draft has already been done in Pro Draft, so we're just going to be running down what we see going through here right now, starting off with the Zac, Rumble, and Kled bans for 8K Gaming, and the Gragas, Silas, and Pantheon for Fallen Gaming.
Yeah, and we were mentioning during Champion Select, taking a look at these champions already, Kale, Jarvan, Mordekaiser versus the Renekton, Echo, Lissandra. But immediately our eyes are brought to the Kale on the top side, shadowy figure deciding to pull out your Wings of Justice on the top lane, and it's not something that you commonly see these days. A lot of things have been changing with her, especially since the past couple of patches where they switched around how her passive works between level 6 and level 11.
Yeah, and now she has that ranged access at level 6 rather than that level 11 point, which kind of unlocks her to be more of a champion a lot earlier into the game, which is why we're kind of seeing her come back into the meta a little bit. I think we've actually seen her have a bit of presence at Worlds for the play-in stage as well. Additionally, with that Renekton being a pretty powerful top lane pick going against her. So I feel like before passive change to Kale into this lane, it would be almost impossible for her to really survive until that level 11 mark. But if she's able to just kind of farm, poke out, because a lot of her AP ratios were also raised on the champion, there is a chance for her to at least try to contend with the Renekton. But I absolutely expect Lord Skippy to really kind of take advantage of that matchup in lane, at least up until that level 6 point.
Yeah, and something that was lost because you have the level 6 range is it means that she no longer gets her AoE abilities, and something that's kind of really changed because of that is Kale has a little bit more of a sustainable level 6 and beyond, but it can be abused a little bit more than the previous one where you had the AoE. What it means now is that she can farm safer if the minion wave is in the middle of the lane, but in comparison to what her previous form was, it means that her wave clear is actually considerably worse. And today you see a lot of Kales getting abused by champions that are able to just shove the wave into turret over and over again, because level 6 only has the range upgrade. It's not going to be enough in order to deal with the large mini wave being shoved into turret. That being said, though, these compositions have been running out for us, and it is the Zyra Rakan combo coming out by 8K Gaming on the bot side, and then Fallen Crusaders picking up the Ashe Baram combination.
Yeah, and important to note on the summoner spells, we have the double TP down in the bot lane, Ashe and Xayah, both grabbing that summoner spell up, and Rakan actually going for that cleanse for himself, because obviously he's going to be dealing with Ashe, he's going to be dealing with Lissandra, Braum. That's a lot of really strong CC for him, and if he wants to have a chance to get into the backline and do what he normally does, diving through, it's going to be a lot easier for him with that summoner spell available. But one thing that I kind of want to talk about just from a macro sense and more of like a team comp sense is I feel like whenever I watch 8K Gaming, they imitate the style of Clutch Gaming a little bit, where they go for that really early Rift Herald and they put a lot of priority on getting that to break down towers in the early game when the plates are still available. Fallen Gaming has actually picked a team comp, I feel like, that actually wins the 5v5 around the Herald a lot better. Just a lot more base CC. Lissandra brings a ton of that with her. Echo with the parallel convergence, and then Renekton just being such a strong early game frontliner and champion that can kind of just jump into the backline and find a kill and get out. I'm very curious to see what 8K Gaming is going to do priority-wise around the map, because I don't think that even if they pull the Xayah Rakan up from bot lane, they'll actually win that 5v5 near the Rift Herald pit. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of where these two teams overall interact, because in the pure 5v5, I think Fallen Gaming actually has a way better comp. For a pick potential style, though, 8K Gaming definitely has the tools to go for that.
Some interesting points you have made there, but with that being said, we are going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick spectator delay as we wait for this final spectator minute to round out. We'll see you guys in just a second here. Don't go anywhere. We'll have the real game for you in just a moment. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome as we're going to be hopping into game one of the night between 8K Gaming and Fallen Gaming. On the blue side, we have 8K with Shadowy Figure playing Kayle in the top lane, Drops with the jungle Jarvan, Boone on the mid lane Mordekaiser, and Kali and Neat Nick playing the lovers duo Xayah Rakan on the bottom side of the map.
And across from them in game one on the red side is Fallen Gaming. It's Lord Skippy with the Renekton in the top lane, Sasuke with that Jungle Echo, Mortally Divine on the Lissandra mid, and Void Bullet Angel and Slayer MVX on the Ashe Braum bot lane.
And we were mentioning during Champion Select how these two team compositions are going to face off against each other. Hold on a second. Their drops trying to go forward for a ward, but it's going to be Mortally Divine denying that aggressive play. He's going to try and force this one down. Is he going to get it off? Finally gets the ward placed down, but that is a lot of good harass damage thrown down onto the jungler.
Yeah, that's actually a quarter of his HP gone right there just from a couple auto attacks and a Q thrown out. So that's pretty good to put this Jarvan a little bit behind. It looks like he's going to get a leash from the Xayah Rakan, though, so probably won't end up losing too much health from this camp. Actually does pop one of those pots for himself, so he gets himself backed up to that full HP. But you know, that might, we'll see how that actually, if that's going to impact anything in terms of the jungle clear or any of these early game skirmishes. I don't really expect the Echo and the Jarvan to really go at each other early on. I still think the Jarvan probably will be able to win that 1v1 as long as he's able to dodge out the parallel convergence. But Xayah Rakan should at least have a little bit of priority in the early levels to help him out if they do go for something.
Yeah, and kind of what I'm hoping to see this game is a lot of pressure out of these junglers. The current meta being heavy early ganking junglers, the Jarvan and the Echo both being fantastic picks for that style of play. We did see both of these junglers start on the bottom side of the map, but neither one of them opting towards a level 2 gank down in the bottom lane. That being said, they'll both be rotating up to the top side of the map, as we already see a lot of trading going back and forth on that top side. Renekton trying to develop some kind of an early lead with his early laning phase champion.
Yeah, and I expect to see actually probably a lot of jungler attention from 8K Gaming up onto this top side to keep Kayle alive throughout this lane. Even in that short trade, we're going to see a lot more aggression from this Renekton, which also means he's going to be overextended. He's going to be pushed up over halfway, or over the halfway point of the lane. So he has a really nice ward by the blue buff entrance for the side of Jarvan, so he'll be able to spot him out if he comes through that way. But I definitely expect as the levels kind of go up to be seeing that. Nice little pull right there by the Mordekaiser.
Great pull by Boone. He's going to get a lot of damage thrown down onto Mortally Divine, but the Ice Claw will mean the exit for this Lissandra, as we have it engaged from Neat Nick. It goes in for the grand entrance onto Slayer MVX. Takes a lot of damage just from a couple of auto attacks by Kali. Is not going to find the E follow-up onto this Braum, but a good trade for 8K Gaming on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, and just in that little short trade, you can see why Braum is considered a soft counter to that Xayah. The feathers are never going to be able to go past his shield as long as that's activated. So any kind of trade where they're looking to pick off the Ashe, they're looking to pick off the Braum, it's going to be really difficult to set up an actual snare to follow up any kind of Rakan CC. So they're going to have to try to bait out that shield first.
Ooh, Echo coming in through the mid lane. Boone dropping extremely low here. I don't think they're going to be able to pick up the kill, but a great gank by Sasuke there. Chunks out Boone extremely low as Lord Sippy once again going on the top side of the map, trying as hard as he can to be super aggressive onto this Kayle, but bot side again, more trading, another grand entrance, and there we see that the E cannot be used as a follow-up by the Xayah, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, and even though they don't necessarily win the trade by being able to snare, the Xayah Rakan definitely does a lot more damage than this Ashe will in the very early game. Once she gets a little bit more, I'm curious to see if she's going to go like the Essence Reaver Triforce build to get that max CDR for herself, or if she's going to go for the Borg build first. We'll see as that item continues to come in. Actually does tag with the Winter's Bite, but not going to be followed up after that.
And something we haven't mentioned so far in this early game is the pseudo glacial comp we have coming out by Fallen Gaming here. I mean, they picked up the Ashe, the Braum, and the Lissandra. Such a huge amount of CC available between the mid and bottom lanes of our red side team here, and it's something that I would keep an eye out, because as the game progresses, CC becomes a huge factor of which one of these teams is able to win a team fight, and there's a lot of engage potential coming out by Fallen Gaming with the Ashe arrow or with the Lissandra engage.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be what's most important as we get out of laning phase into the mid game, is watching where the Ashe arrows actually will go down. That's going to be, for me, the biggest way that Fallen Gaming is going to be able to pick and look for plays. Now, on the other side of it, though, Neat Nick has that cleanse like we talked about. Xayah has the ultimate that can go have an invulnerability frame. So probably not going to be able to pick off either of those two. And the Kale ultimate could definitely be used to save people, but oh, here we go.
Lord Skippy
Nice
going,
trade.
yeah, going very aggressive on the top side of the map, continuously using that slice and dice forward to try and get onto this Kale. Shadowy Figure forced the back here. He is barely not level 6 on the top side of the map, is level 5, will most likely have to use the teleport to respond to this lane, and he is going to be using it now, but once he comes back, he'll be able to hit level 6 and finally gain access to that range form that we've been talking about.
Yep, and we'll see. She was actually doing pretty decent trading with Lord Skippy as long as Shadowy Figure is able to kind of stay out of his range for the double dash, because obviously the AP ratios are pretty strong. That Q max, I believe, is what he's going for. Does actually hurt quite a bit against this Renekton, seeing as he doesn't have many resistances for himself. But yeah, once the Renekton's able to go in, actually use his full combo and get out, usually he'll be able to come out with a health net positive gain. So we'll see where these junglers are going to be moving as well, now that they're both close to reaching level 6.
It's something we'll have to keep an eye out as well for Lord Skippy to see what he decides to build. Typically, we've been seeing a lot of the Spear of Sojourn coming out on the top side of the map by Renektons, giving access to such low cooldowns when he goes for the engages in the ultimate, as we see him once again moving forward onto Shadowy Figure. But as we're mentioning, getting the extremely low cooldowns, the resets on all of your abilities when you use the ultimate Dominus on the top side of that map with a Renekton is going to give him so much extra kill pressure if he decides to rush towards that Spear of Sojourn first.
And that's definitely what it looks like he's going to be going for. Once he gets that Spear of Shojin, even with the Kale ulti, I don't know how easy it'll be for him to kite that out just because of how low those cooldowns will eventually be. Jarvan almost to that level 6. Looks like he's backing, going for the reset here to try to buy out. Looks like he's going for that Cinder Hulk Jarvan build with the Conqueror, so that does make sense for him into the rune choice right now. So I believe after he clears this top side of camps, he will be at that level 6 mark. Probably going to be transitioning up into this top lane to try to take down Renekton. But we'll see. It looks like Echo is also hovering around there as well, clearing out his Krugs.
Yeah, and for 8 minutes into this game, it has been a very slow start to this series so far. We haven't really seen a whole lot of jungle pressure, minus that one gank coming out by Sasuke in the mid lane. It wasn't even all too successful besides getting a good chunk of damage down onto Boone, but besides that, nothing else has happened. That being said, on the top side of the map, it does look like we have a 2v2 that's about to get started. And instead, a lot of pressure being applied to this blue buff, but no actual fight starts.
Yeah, and I personally think that it's tough to call in just the 2v2 which one is stronger. I know the Renekton is very much stronger than Kale, but Jarvan against Echo I still think does have a bit of an advantage for himself when you factor in the Kale ulti for that 2v2. If the Lysandra was there, though, definitely would have gone in the favor of Fallen Gaming for any kind of contest in the jungle. But now that this Kale has that level 6, looks like actually going for
it
the
is
play.
going to be the Kale ultimate used. Jarvan EQs forward. He's going to find the Cataclysm, but another slice and dice coming out by Lord Skippy means this Renekton is able to get out safely. Did have to blow the flash eventually, but he is going to stay alive, and at 9 minutes, no first blood so far.
And that's not honestly the worst flash trade, especially considering how slow the game is going. Cataclysm will probably be up by the time they want to look for another play somewhere across the map. But having that Renekton flash down is really big compared to the Kale because it just gives her an extra level of security against him. Even if he is somehow able to get an all-in or go heavily forward, Kale will still have that flash to get away from it. So the mismatch on flash timing won't be too bad.
Yeah, that will be a point of contention, though, that we'll have to keep an eye out on. Lord Skippy now being the only player on the map without his flash up and available. It is something that can be abused if they're able to time a gank around the slice and dice that Renekton has available to himself. That being said, a couple of members of Fallen Gaming have showed up in this river. Looks like they're going to be starting up this dragon. I'm not sure if AK Gaming knows, and they do not. And so a Cheese Dragon stolen away at the 10-minute mark by Fallen Gaming as they get a Cloud Drake completely for free.
Yeah, and that's pretty easy for them to be able to do. They have the priority from that mid lane having already been shoved out by Lysandra, and you know, Ashe and Braum are definitely no slouches when it comes to shoving out a lane, so they were able to pretty quickly respond to that dragon. It is just a Cloud Drake, so not the biggest gain for them to get that early. Oh, there we go.
Ooh, Neat Nick trying to go in. EQ comes out by this Jarvan. It's going to be a forced flash. Braum has to ult and try to style this one out. But a teleport being channeled by Void Bullet Angel means he is going to be going down first. As is Neat Nick that picks that one up. Meanwhile, fights across the rest of the map also blowing up right now. Boone going very aggressive onto Mortally Divine. As we saw a huge amount of trading happening topside for a brief second there. And it's Lord Skippy that gets the worst end of that trade.
Yeah, that was the AD carry not being used to having teleport instead of heal on his secondary summoner. I've definitely done that before a couple of times myself, so definitely not trying to teleport away from that. Thought he probably had heal to try to survive, but in that case, really nice gank played out by the Jarvan, using that flash forward to be able to get the two-man knock up after the Xayah Rakan. So really, really proactive play, and honestly, they are looking to try to take down this tower plating as quickly as possible. Rift Herald was traded away and is being put down in the mid lane, so we'll see what they're going to be able to do.
Boone using the Death Realm in the mid lane. Lissandra has to use the Frozen Tomb in order to try and keep herself alive. Flashes away, is able to get out of the Death Realm alive, and is able to find the Ice Claw to safety as well. So Hook is also there trying to take out Boone. Gets the Echo ultimate, greatly done in order to get a bunch of damage down, but is it going to be enough for him in order to pick up this kill? It is not, as Boone is forced to flash away, but keeps himself alive in the 2v1.
Yeah, and looks like the Rift Herald did get the charge off, so they will get tower plating gold from that play, but very sloppy in that 2v1. It's obviously difficult to gank a Mordekaiser when he has his ultimate up, but, you know, I feel like Boone played that about as well as he could have to avoid getting dove, avoid getting killed in that play.
Yeah, and more importantly, he stalled out for the Rift Herald. The Rift Herald only being able to get the single charge off and no power play being forced there. Meanwhile, the successful gank on the bot lane resulted in 4 platings for 8K, and it didn't cost them a major objective like the Rift Herald being used there. So overall, we have finally established a 1,000 gold lead at 12.5 minutes into this game in favor of 8K Gaming. But more importantly, Jarvan has his Cataclysm back up and available, and there are no flashes available on the bot side.
Yeah, and that definitely begs just going for a regank right there, especially now that that Cataclysm is available. Rakan Ultimate is available as well, and he has the flash. But honestly, I think they'll just be able to take down this tower first and get that gold for themselves, depending on how quickly. Yep, there it goes down. So good on this bot lane, this Xayah Rakan from 8K Gaming to really push the tempo after getting themselves that early advantage. But looks like Jarvan's hanging around in this mid lane.
Ooh, great step forward by Mortally Divine there. Is able to dodge out the flag and drag, which means he takes the Ice Claw to safety once again. And this Lissandra, time and time again, has been able to keep himself alive in the mid lane, not falling victim to any of these roams or pressures being applied by AK Gaming.
Xayah and Rakan are now moving up into this mid lane to try to get a bit of pressure around there. No Rift Herald for them to take, so it's just going to be having to take it down the old-fashioned way with auto attacks to get those tower platings. But with the Lissandra sitting in the mid lane, I don't expect them to really gain much ground. I feel like if they wanted to send the duo top lane, they'd have a good chance. Echo coming into the gank here.
Lord Skippy going very far forward. Is not popping Renekton ultimate just caught as Shadowy Figure drops extremely low. Is able to heal himself and walk away. Sasuke force use that Echo ultimate, but a flash forward by Lord Skippy is able to find the Q for the kill. Drops the Cataclysm onto this Echo. He was forced to ult in order to keep himself alive, but the Echo makes it out safe as Lord Skippy going back forward. Slice and dice does find its way out to drops, but another EQ coming out from the Jarvan jungler keeps himself alive for now. The Q lands, but is barely not going to be enough as 4 members of Fallen Gaming show up on the top side to try and take down this turret.
Yeah, and with the Xayah Rakan here, I feel like they could just kind of stall it out to see what they want to go for. Oh, actually,
looks like Callie is trying to keep this one going. The Featherstorm is dropped. It's not going to use the Blade Caller, the flash forward for the Q, but the Ice Tomb comes out by Mortally Divine. He gets healed up, and he steps forward into the Feathers, and that's going to be a kill picked up by the Xayah AD carry. Neat Nick goes in once more with the Grand Entrance. He baits the Suk. K ultimate comes out and keeps the Rakan alive, and it's going to be a cleanup by AK Gaming. Double kill for Kali as Shadowy Figures finds another one for himself as well. And what a commanding team fight win for 8K.
Yeah, and that's huge right there for 8K Gaming. They did get routed a little bit up in that top lane, ended up going down, but they were just able to punish Fallen Gaming for overextending right there. They definitely looked like they were trying to commit to take down that outer tower. didn't quite get it low enough to be able to execute on that. And with the Kale teleport from the side, her ultimate was available because she didn't use it in that previous skirmish in the river. They're just able to pretty easily get a 4 for 0 in the trade right there.
Yeah, and Shadowy Figure able to find his way back into that fight. The fight going on so long that he could respawn. He used the teleport, get his way into the top side, and then Neat Nick trusting the Kale enough to go in for the re-engage, and that the ultimate would come out in order to keep him alive. Great job there by the side of AK Gaming, playing that team fight so well, and they were able to pick up 4 extra kills as well as denying the turret pickup through that play. And so a huge swing of momentum, now sitting at 3,000 gold for AK Gaming.
Yep, and we'll see what they're able to do with that gold, if they're going to be able to break these towers. Looks like the Ashe Braum going for that play. Jarvan kind of sitting in the jungle here, caught out though.
Yeah, Drops is going to have to back away, but uses a stopwatch, is able to get out safely. Is going to mean that he no longer has that invulnerability available, but just like that, so much pressure again for AK Gaming as this dragon is respawning.
Oh, that seemed like a could have maybe been a Death Realm thrown down on the Lissandra. Even committed the Ignite right there, but they decided not to go for that play. Oh, actually does use it onto this Renekton.
Yeah, he does drop the Death Realm onto the Renekton. A lot of ultimates being thrown back and forth as the Rakan is trying to keep Mortally Divine from getting so much damage down to the backline. The Lissandra going a little too deep without the rest of the team. Cataclysm is dropped. Void Bullet Angel does not have a way out as Shadowy Figure picks up that kill, as well as finding a triple kill for himself. Shadowy Figure and this Kale has hit level 11, and this Kale is starting to become online.
Yeah, this is just kind of a bit of a rout now. Another 4 for 0 trade in the mid lane in favor of 8K Gaming, and they're probably going to be able to take this inner tower down as well. And this is just kind of the difficulty of when you're not able to shut down Kale early. She hard scales really, really well, and with the Xayah, who also is at that 306 point, Xayah, when she gets fed, is just always so much better than other AD carries. Ashe sure has the utility of that enchanted crystal arrow to try to look for a fight, but whenever the Xayah gets even close to Ashe for that 1v1 play or any kind of damage onto the backline, it's almost always going to be Xayah favored in that regard. And we're kind of just seeing what the gold lead is actually happening. It feels like Fallen Gaming is going for plays and they're trying to find people caught out, but the collapse from 8K Gaming on the sides is just so much better for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this can be tracked back to the early game. We were mentioning both of these junglers, really heavy early game style gankers, and we were mentioning that we didn't see a whole lot of pressure out of either one of these junglers throughout the early game, but that kind of playstyle heavily favors AK Gaming here, because the likes of the Mordekaiser, who wants a couple of items, you know, the Rylai's, the Leandri's Torment, and Kale, who wants to be scaling towards those later stages of the game, are going to heavily favor a slower early game. So when there was not a whole lot of pressure being put on by Sasuke, besides that one gank in the mid lane, Drops is totally okay with playing the farming game, because he knows that his team will turn online the later this game goes, and it's going to heavily favor them in the team fight. We're seeing that happen now, as they're currently so far in the lead, 9-1, and Baron is going to be spawning in just about a minute here, but all the pressure is in favor of AK Gaming.
Yeah, and it just kind of feels like at this point, if 8K Gaming had gotten the gold lead early, then their team comp can have a very easy time going for any kind of team fight, because even though Lissandra's really good CC, even though Ashe has pretty good CC, they don't have a lot of damage early game. They need items to really scale and actually kind of make their mark. Echo is probably the more AP heavy damage champion, and he's an assassin that if he gets CC'd or hit up in any way without being able to ult, he's pretty vulnerable as well. So it just feels like the team comp for 8K Gaming, even though I thought that in the early game they might not actually be favored as much for these kind of early skirmishes, they've just made the outplays, have made the team fights happen where they needed to be able to get a gold lead to kind of overcome that disadvantage. Echo going in for a little bit of a trade here, not gonna go for much after that.
And something I want to point out is the itemization coming out by both of these teams. Xayah has completed the Essence Reaver. Kale has completed that Naster's Tooth as well. Meanwhile, on the hold on topside fight going in, though, Neat Nick is able to get a lot of people with the Rakan Ultimate. Cataclysm comes out and lines up 3 people for Kali, and it's going to be a quick double kill by the Xayah. Kale comes in to find the third of the team fight as well, but just like that, the wombo combo of 8K finds 3.
Yeah, and it just feels like the ease of execution for 8K Gaming's team comp, Rakan and Jarvan being such a good, reliable 2v2 dive engage right there, going all the way around that inner tower, being able to cut them off. That was actually a really nice prediction by Neat Nick with that grand entrance to where the Renekton is going to dash. And after they got that 4-man charm plus 3-man cataclysm, you know, it's pretty easy for them to clean up with the damage that the Kayle and the Xayah are able to put out. So that's going to result in them getting this very early 20-minute Baron. We'll see what 8K Gaming can do now when they have such a commanding lead, almost 10K gold in their favor at 20 minutes.
And that's really the key to this game. What is there that Fallen Gaming can do at this point? I mean, you're mentioning it's a 9,500 gold lead for 8K Gaming, Baron at 20 minutes, and you're facing the likes of a 5-0 Xayah and a 6-1-3 Kayle in the top lane. All the kills are on these carry players for 8K Gaming. They've fallen far behind. All the objectives are going in favor of 8K. So what is it that Fallen Gaming can do to try and bring themselves back into this game?
I feel like they definitely, well, they have the CC to be able to do that. They have Assault and they have Lissandra. That is more than enough CC to lock down anyone that is errantly going for it.
Oh, hold on, I'm gonna cut you off. As Drops and Neat Nick are the ones with the CC coming in on the Void Bullet Angel. The Kayle ultimate not even needed to be used here, as Rakan is able to do enough work himself. Boone finds his way onto Ashe, and just like that, only one ultimate used by 8K Gaming. They find another 2 picks.
Yeah, and that's what you can't do if you're Fallen Gaming right there. You need to be grouped up and you need to be using your team comp to try to find picks, to try to find any kind of opportunity to pick somebody off when they're by themselves.
Mortally Divine goes forward. Shadowy Figure forced to use the ultimate this time onto himself, as the Death Realm was used by Boone in order to keep this Lissandra away from the rest of his team. But it's going to mean the re-engage coming up by Drops. Cataclysm flash away by Mortally Divine is able to keep himself safe. Sasuke has the ultimate here in order to keep himself alive. Braum ultimate comes in. Shadowy Figure is extremely low, but it's not going to be falling down just quite yet, as Void Bullet Angel has respawned. Slayer MVX goes down as the first person in the back of this fight. Braum going down to the Mordekaiser. Flash away from Boone, but it's not going to be enough, as a flash follow-up by Void Bullet Angel is able to find a kill in return. Drops does find Sasuke wandering off to the side, and a re-engage coming out by Neat Nick here is going to be able to find another 2. Mortally Divine, the only person left alive, as he gets picked off, and that is going to be game 1 for 8K Gaming.
Yeah, and just a very commanding play. We thought maybe they might have overextended a little bit when all their health bars got really low, but at the end of the day, that gold lead just really being flexed by 8K Gaming, taking the first game in a commanding 23-minute win for themselves. So off to a really good start. 8K Gaming taking the first game of this best of 5.
Yeah, and it really was just a commanding one-sided win for 8K Gaming here. Kind of getting a lot of comfort picks. We know that Boone has played the Mordekaiser throughout the entire play-in series. Kali being very comfortable on that Xayah, something that we see these 2 players pick up a lot of the time. And it just felt like they were on comfort. They knew what they wanted. And something I want to point out, though, is the stopwatch build by Mordekaiser. While we still have a chance here, a little bit of a BM. Man died, went back to base and managed to collect all the time in the world for himself. But I digress. I just thought it was fun to point that out. For this next game, what do we want to see out of Fallen Gaming?
Okay, so I believe since 8K Gaming was the higher seed, they have Champ Select selection for games 1, 3, 5, which I would guess means Fallen Gaming is going back onto blue side if they're choosing to go for that in the second game. And the big thing about drafting on blue side is you are a lot more free in terms of what bans you can choose. Pantheon is pretty much always a perma red side ban, just because he's so incredibly strong and you don't want to give that over as a first pick. And then the Sylas and the Gragas were 2 really strong champions as well that they had to ban away. I'm interested. I feel like this might have been a game for Fallen Gaming to just see what 8K Gaming wants to pick, and then they can kind of adjust their strategy. I personally don't think that they can give over Xayah Rakan anymore. I think that, if anything, take away the Rakan, because it's just such a reliable engage for them, and they seem to really know what they're doing. Jarvan is also something that they could potentially look at, either first picking for themselves on blue side or just getting rid of as well. And then I'm not sure necessarily if the Kayle was actually as big of an issue as it seemed to be, just in terms of the scoreline and everything, because it really wasn't doing a lot. It was still getting dominated by the Renekton in the early game. It was just that one fight in the top lane where all 4 of them were below half HP and Kale teleports in from the river and cleans them all up. I think that if Fallen Gaming just plays the map a little bit better and is more conscious of their health bars and sort of how far they can actually go at certain points, the Kale isn't really that big of a factor. It definitely scales super well, and it's very clear that Shadowy Figure is comfortable on it, so you can potentially look to just ban that away because you don't want to deal with it. But I still think that with the right tools in Champ Select, you can deal with this Kale, and there are ways to deal with it.
Absolutely. A number of things for Fallen Gaming to keep in mind hopping into Game 2, but we're going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick delay as we get set up for the second game of the night. We'll see you guys in a few minutes when we hit Champion Select, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Like I scream on a burning hot pavement waiting for you to scream me up and pull me down. I've been spending all my nights with the demons lately. They have me howling your name, howling out. Baby, slow, I'll play you sweet. I'm pulling you close under my feet. Oh, now your heart is my symphony. Now your heart is my symphony. To kick you down. How does it feel? Oh, how does it feel? Oh, now your heart is my symphony. Now your heart is my symphony. How does it feel? Baby, slow, I'll take it slow, I'll take it close, my symphony. I'm turning you down, I played it too loud, and now it's my time. I'm playing it slow. I'm playing it slow. I've got you standing on an ice cold pavement waiting for me to take you home, throw you out through the holes of your heart. I'm navigating through the holes of your heart. See now, baby, slow, I'll play you sweet. I'm pulling you close under my feet. Oh,
there. Whereas AK Gaming has really just a death ball of a composition. They want to be grouped together. They want to have Mordekaiser, Renekton, Skarner in the front, with Lucian doing DPS on the back, being peeled by the Braum. And it's going to be all up to how Fallen Gaming approaches these fights, how they're able to approach the initiations in order to see which one of these teams is going to be able to come out on top during these team fights. But that being said, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to a quick break as we go through the last minute of spectator delay. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with the game itself. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we're going to be hopping into Game 2 between Fallen Gaming and 8K Gaming. On the blue side, our Fallen team with Lord Skippy playing the Riven of the top lane, Sasuke back on the Echo jungle, Mortally Divine playing Ahri mid this time around, and Void Bullet Angel and Slayer MVX on their namesake champions Kaisa and Leona.
Yep, and across from them on the red side for the first time this series, it's 8K Gaming. Shadowy figure with the Renekton in the top lane drops using the Skarner in the jungle. Boone back on that Mordekaiser mid, and Kali and Neat Nick on the Lucian Braum bot lane.
And going back to what we were talking about during the Champions Select, these team compositions being so different from each other in terms of the ease of execution. AK Gaming having that deathball style of team composition, Renekton, Mordekaiser, Skarner just one being in the thick of things. Lucian, even as an AD carry, tends to follow up with that playstyle. Meanwhile, you have a lot of fight selection, a lot of choosing your engages. How are you going to play around these team fights, in and out, back and forth, diving or not, coming out by Fallen Gaming with all the dashes and mobility that we have available on this blue side team.
Yeah, and kind of to speak a little bit more to like the team comp styles of both of these teams, the thing that I see being a potential issue, but also like a potential upside for Fallen Gaming's team comp is this Echo. If they're able to burn the Skarner ult on any of the other assassins on this team, then Sasuke will be able to use the Echo well. But I'm just having a really difficult time seeing how, like, as we get into the mid game, if they're not, if the game is like relatively even heading into the mid game, I'm not really sure how this jungle Echo is really going to function when going for any kind of skirmishes or fights whenever the Skarner is around, because between the suppression and then potential Braum stun, Braum knockup, and Renekton stun, I just don't really see him ever having enough time to be able to ult out and actually save himself unless he buys like a QSS or something like that, which in its own regard would be pretty big money sink. But we're probably going to be seeing a lot of these assassins having to go that QSS just because of how strong this Skarner is going to be at picking them off.
Yeah, and speaking of the QSS, looking at the summoner spells of Fallen Gaming, none of them opting towards that cleanse, though I do want to note both AD carries going back towards the heal for this game wanted to have a little bit more pressure during these bot lane team fights, the Kai'Sa and Lucian being shorter range, not as wave clear centric champions, which means they are expecting a lot more trading, a lot more fighting, and want to have the ability to try and tip the fight in their favor once those fights do start happening on the bot side.
Yeah, and you know, the last 2 AD carries that were played in the bot lane, like you were saying, were much more controlled, much more ability to just push the lane out and look to roam, because that's what they both wanted to be able to do. But yeah, these two are much more adept at skirmishing. They have the Braum and the Leona, both of them very heavy CC machines. So I fully expect them to at least try to go for a little bit more skirmishing now in this bot lane rather than just trying to wave clear constantly. And in this top lane, even more of a trade going down that time. One slightly out by the Riven.
Yeah, again, this time around, I like to see something a little bit. I like to see that Shadowy Figure has picked up the Renekton to try and match Lord Skippy's early game aggression. Now, how Shadowy Figure is going to be able to play this Renekton, we're going to have to see. Something that I was hoping to see a little bit more last game with some more aggression coming out by Lord Skippy onto this Kayle. He was never really able to pick up a solo kill in the top lane versus, you know, a pre-level 6 Kayle who doesn't even have range. It was very unfortunate to see, but it looks like Sasuke is going to be able to get the parallel convergence stun here. He's going to be able to follow that up with a lot of damage. Shadowy Figure using the slice and dice in order to back away from this one and ends up not needing to even use the flash to escape that gank by Sasuke.
Yep, and that was pretty good awareness, I feel like, by Shadowy Figure. He knew that something was up and had to go check that tri-bush after he warded River to see if the Echo was there. And once he did, even though he had that first dash when he was stunned, he did have the second part of it go through, so not too bad for himself right there. And he's going to be able to get his health back up with that Cold and Meek. So we'll see now as he continues to shove in this lane. Skarner now hovering around in this top side jungle.
And I like to see that we're already having some aggressive ganks coming out by Sasuke. Something that this Echo needs to be doing during the early game is abusing the fact that his pre-level 6 ganks are so much considerably stronger than a Skarner's. Really, Skarner looks a hard farm to level 6, get the Impale, and then start using the Predator to get into these lanes, pull back the enemy champion, and go one at a time through the ganks like that. But Echo, who has parallel convergence and his E available on, you know, a 15-20 second cooldown there, should be really looking to get a lot of ganks off in this early game and abuse the weak early ganking patterns of drops.
Yep, and a little bit more of a trade going down. I feel like against something like the Riven, who has been primarily using her skills to go into actually trade, even a Predator gank at level 5 with that Skarner stun might actually be enough for them to be able to lock her down, depending on if they're able to get the empowered stun off right there, like from that Renekton.
Ooh, Shadowy Figure going in very deep. Flash force out by Lord Skippy there, as it's going to be Shadowy Figure winning the trades on the top side once again, this time around on his Renekton.
And that's really big, honestly, as everybody's kind of approaching level 6 at this point. When that Skarner does eventually come around with the Predator with that level 6, Riven won't have Flash. So that's a very big exclamation point for 8K Gaming if they want to be able to punish that on the top side. And right now, this bot lane is just constantly being shoved in. The Leona Kai'Sa don't really have an open opportunity to go for any play until they hit level 6 either. And even then, it's still going to be pretty close in terms of who wins that 2v2. So I fully expect to see a lot more pressure put on this top side. And even right now, that's Skarner hovering around here.
Yeah, he is going to be able to find the first stun as Riven goes to face check this bush. Gets a great stun a few Qs away. Echo is on the top side of the map as well, ready to help out. And it looks like Lord Skippy gets away from that gank for free there.
Yeah, and big thing is Shadowy Figure actually popped his ulti. It looks like he was hiding up in that river, or up in that lane bush. And because he ended up using his ultimate, that's a pretty big point of power, kind of negating what happened earlier in that trade. So Riven does have the potential to all-in Shadowy Figure at this point. Whether or not he'll have the damage to be able to pull that off with just that Caulfield's, we'll see as they both kind of get back into lane. But you know, not that he doesn't have that ulti, now that he doesn't have that little bit of extra health to be able to live, that's definitely something that Riven can look for to try to punish in the little short window that she has.
Something I want to point out in terms of itemization here, both Shadowy Figure and Boone opting to go straight for the tier 2 boots. Shadowy Figure picking up the Ninja Tabbies and Boone a Merc Treads for himself, and I'm interested to see that they didn't opt towards, you know, more component items. Shadowy Figure, that being said, going in for the stun as Drop shows again once again on the top side of the map, does not even have to use the ultimate here, as it's going to be Shadowy Figure picking up the first blood by a regank from this Skarner.
Yep, and that's exactly like I just said a minute ago. That's the point of power that 8K Gaming can really flex because they lost the flash, and right now teleport from Renekton means that they're going to be trying to take this dragon away from the side of Fallen Gaming and probably will be able to succeed. Skarner's not there to actually get a smite over the wall, but I think that Echo's going to be able to challenge that either. He's already back out the Krug, so pretty big. Ooh, it does reset a little bit, but probably not going to end up being the bad end of it. Yep. They are able to secure Mountain Dragon for themselves early on, so that'll be helpful for the Rift Herald when it spawns and just any kind of objective that they want.
Mortally Divine does not want to let this one go for free, though. He's going to take the Death Realm. Boone is matched by a flash in order to keep himself away from this Mordekaiser, but the flash over by Shadowy Figure is able to find his way immediately onto Sasuke's. Kali's able to clean that one up. Braun comes in for the support as well, as 5 people are there to finish off Mortally Divine, overstaying just a little too long. He didn't want to give up that dragon for free, but ends up giving his life due to it.
Yeah, and I really like that play by Drops. He knew that the Ahri had flashed over the wall because Boone had communicated that from inside the Death Realm. So he was just sitting there waiting for her to end up leaving because there was no way for her to actually get out of the red buff pit because she was still stuck in that ulti. And because the Lucian Braum didn't really leave, they still had a decent amount of priority in the bot lane that eventually got shoved up to the tower like you just saw. Their 5-man unit is just so much stronger than any singular player from the side of Fallen Gaming, and just seeing them group up early and try to get these advantages, get a couple kills, is really big for them. But as we see now, 3 people trying to collapse down here. Skarner does pop the Predator in mid lane to try to dissuade them from going for any kind of a trade.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the point that we made in the early game, that these team compositions are going to be the Death Ball versus the team that is really needing to have the mechanical outplays here. And with a lead already going over in favor of AK Gaming, with the easier composition, this mid game is going to be a huge question mark for Fallen Gaming. Are they going to be able to play their champions to an efficient level that they're not only going to be able to overcome the great team fighting that AK Gaming has, but are they going to also be able to come over the lead that they've developed for themselves? Shadowy Figure going in once again onto Lord Skippy on the top side of the map. He's going to get stunned up. Lord Skippy trying to solve this one out as best as he can, but the Renekton doesn't even have the ultimate available. It's going to get shut down. Lord Skippy picking up a kill for himself. They're trying to continue this one down onto Drops, who shows up as backup, but gives over a second kill to this Riven on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big play right there for Fallen Gaming to get themselves back into the game. It was looking pretty dicey for them, but the timing on that gank from Drops and Shadowy Figure not connecting with each other, whereas Sasuke and Lord Skippy were able to put that together much more efficiently. So because of that, it kind of just ended up going 1 versus 2, and then a second 1 versus 2 as soon as Drops had come in, not able to use that ultimate as well. And that's going to be the Rift Herald over to the side of Fallen Gaming for the second time this series.
Yeah, and again, this time they are getting it before 14 minutes, which means they're going to have access to this Rift Herald for a plating play. Now, this time around, I would like to see them use it in a better scenario than they did in the previous game. Try and go for a power play, kill your lane opponents this time around, then drop the Rift Herald to try and finish off a fully plated turret. But we'll have to keep an eye out what Sasuke decides to do with it, as he's already roaming down to this bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and just kind of taking a look at the points of power, I still feel like this Skarner is definitely going to be really useful in the matchup versus the Echo, but what that gank did top lane was help the Riven get some gold back against this Renekton, help her actually fight back. In that sort of 1v1 trade before either jungler showed up, it was very clear that the Renekton was out damaging Riven at that point, and now that she's got the Kindle Gem, now that she's gotten a little bit more durability than Ninja Tabby's as well, it'll probably be a lot easier for her to go for any of those potential trades in lane. I still think that Renekton just has a bit of a tempo play, but Riven is definitely not going to be slouching in terms of damage now.
Yeah, we see more trading going on top side. Ari having to roam into the jungle there to prevent Boone from 1v1ing his jungler. The Mordekaiser going in for some deep wards as we see that bottom side of the map littered in red side wards. Meanwhile, the top side, though, a couple of great pinks coming out by Fallen Gaming as these junglers and teams have this map kind of split. Top side for Fallen Gaming, 8K having control of the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and one thing actually to notice in terms of itemization, it looks like Void Bullet Angel is going for that Death's Dance first on Kaisa, if I had to guess, just because of the Caulfield's Warhammer. So I think I've seen him do this a couple of times. I'm not sure how much stronger it is against a team comp that I wouldn't really say one-shots you per se. It's a lot more sustained damage. So I guess we'll see how that item ends up playing out for him. It will be able to allow him to probably 1v1 the Lucian if he ever wants to go for a play like that. But typically I feel like the extra healing is pretty good against team comps that have that insane burst that would just instantly one-shot you. Just kind of looking at how the game state would be going.
Yeah, and it is kind of an old item build that we don't see all too often anymore. It will be something to help him survive a lot of the damage being thrown his way if he ends up being impaled by this Skarner, something to try and just give him some extra sustainability. I would like to see a QSS picked up instead and going the more traditional Kaisa build that we currently have going on. But it is Void Bullet Angel's favorite champion, so we're going to have to just trust his word on this one in terms of him saying that Death's Dance is the best item to start off this game.
And Cloud Drake is now spawned. We already see the members of 8K Gaming trying to collapse down on this bot side. Ari is actually in the tri-bush for them.
The Leona ultimate used, but that's going to be the Death Realm dropped on the Void Bullet Angel. Lord Skippy has teleported into the back of this fight as the teleport also coming in from her neck, and a huge 5v5 is breaking out as Sasuke is able to pick up the first kill of this fight. Mordekaiser in the thick of it, although doing so much AoE damage. A Shadowy Figure tries to flash over the wall, but Mortally Divine picks up that one. A great dash forward by Ari is almost able to pick up Boone and ends up sacrificing himself as a great shield by Boone is able to deny that one away. And at the end of the day is a 2-for-2 for both teams.
Yeah, but it's in the favor of 8K Gaming even after all of that because they are still able to stick around and go for this tower. It's going to be the 2-for-2, but in the end, it's 2-for-2 plus a tower and potentially even a Cloud Drake if they want to go for that.
They're able to pick up the first brick, which is bringing this gold lead to 3,000 in favor of 8K Gaming. Again, we see the early game gold difference favoring 8K. But I'm liking the team composition that we have out of Fallen Gaming a little bit better than the previous one because this time around there's a lot more damage to be able to take these fights against 8K. And we saw there that they're going to be extremely scrappy with a lot of back and forth happening. And so in terms of how we can see 8K Fallen Gaming successfully take out these team fights, we'll have to wait and see if they're able to play. But Sasuke not going to be able to find the parallel convergence there as three members of Fallen Gaming are on the top side of the map.
Yeah, but this gives them time to kind of collapse here. No Riven, no Ari here to go for any kind of a play. Not able to quite get him over that piece of terrain with the hand, but Rift Herald does go down, takes down the outer tower in top lane. A little bit of health, but again, not really used to capitalize. It looked like it was thrown out because the timer was about to end on it. So, you know, two Rift Heralds not really used as efficiently as they could be by Fallen Gaming, considering how much closer they are in this game than they were in the last one.
Yeah, and this time not even using the Rift Herald before the 14-minute mark, which means they didn't even get turret platings out of this one. Just some extra damage on the top side of the map. And really what I would like to see is some more gank pressure coming out by Sasuke through these early games, using the Echo's ability to find such free trades at level 2s, at level 3. But Dragon being started up, we have to watch and see how this one goes. Flash forward by Drops is able to find the impale into the Arya's Mortally Divine goes down at the very beginning of that fight. Leona's Solar Flare does not land on the Shadowy Figure as he's able to dash away and goes immediately back forth to try and keep that one going. But just like that, the mid laner of Fallen Gaming picked off for free.
Yep, and that's just the danger of playing against a Skarner when you don't have that QSS yet. It's almost impossible for you to escape that flash ultimate. And with the Braum to boot, able to get a second stun as soon as that suppress ends, and be able to pick up pressure in this mid lane. Might be able to actually take the tower if they get that demolish proc off. Keeps getting aggroed by tower, but looks like they will be able to finish that one off. Breaking this mid outer tower this early into the game, very beneficial for 8K for when they want to try moving their vision line up, especially when Baron becomes a factor for the team.
It is a 17 and a half minutes into the game currently. We're still a couple of minutes away from the Baron, so having that mid lane outer turret now will help for the ward coverage that they need to be developing in the next minute or two. But that being said, there's only a 3,000k gold lead, and I feel like this game is going a little bit more favorably for Fallen Gaming than in the previous game. They have 4 kills for themselves. They have the damage that they need. How are they going to be able to play these next few minutes coming up to this Baron spawning, though, in order to try and turn these tides around? Because it's slowly starting to slip away from them as AK Gaming is developing more and more pressure around the map.
I think that Void Bullet Angel, once he gets, like, I think Gwinsu's is probably the next item in the build for him. So once he gets that, then Kai'Sa kind of becomes a bit more of a damage threat, especially a much more survivable damage threat with that Death Stance as the first item. So if they're able to get him to that point within the next couple of minutes, just in terms of giving him farm and allocating him resources, then they have a really good chance of being able to win whatever fight they want. But I still think that vision is going to be one of the most important things for both of these teams, not just in the series. Oh, but nice charm landing down. Death Realm gets thrown onto the Ahri here.
Speaking of vision, Boone going forward, trying to clear out this ward, throws the Death Realm down onto Mortally Divine to try and pick up a kill onto the Ahri, but the stopwatch is in order to keep Ahri alive. Great Braum ultimate comes in from the side, though, as Drops is able to find the Impale and the kill. Sasuke forced the ult out of that one as Boone dropping extremely low is finally going to be going down to the Leon. Lord Skippy on the backside, and the ultimate coming in by Void Bullet Angel is going to be the entire side of Fallen Gaming coming into this one. Parallel Convergence is able to stun up Shadowy Figure as he goes down to Lord Skippy, picking up a third kill for Fallen Gaming, ending up coming out ahead 3-for-1.
Yeah, and that's just Fallen Gaming recognizing that they can still win these fights when they have a numbers advantage. Lucian was nowhere to be seen. The Renekton came in a little bit later over the wall, but by the time he went in, everyone else was just too low to be able to stay in the fight, so they all had to flash away or run. And it was just a little bit disjointed. It all did end up starting with Boone getting caught out by that Raptor camp, so it definitely was a proactive play by Fallen Gaming and able to actually benefit from a couple extra people getting overextended on the side of 8K Gaming. So 7-7, still about a 2.5k gold lead for 8K Gaming, so they are still a little bit ahead, but that gold lead is slowly closing as this game goes on.
Yeah, and it felt like that team fight kind of got turned around because of how many ultimates were used to pick up just Mortally Divine. The Mordekaiser, Braum, and Skarner all used onto this Ahri. Meanwhile, you had the Riven able to come into that fight using the ultimate, getting multiple knockups. Void Bullet Angel also coming in very late to that fight, which is exactly what Kai'Sa wants to be doing in order to try and clean up as many kills as possible there. We have finally crested the 20-minute mark, though, which means Baron is on the map. Both of these teams immediately rotating towards the top side, trying to find the ward coverage around this big purple worm.
Yep, and I still think that in a even numbers fight, 8K Gaming should have a bit more of an advantage just because they are stronger. They do have slightly better item completions. It's more of when the fights get disjointed like that last one and they have a little bit more of a numbers disadvantage is when Fallen Gaming really does shine with this team comp. But as of right now, it is that 4v4. Everyone's solidly grouped around each other, just kind of waiting to try to find a pick and getting some more mid-priority as well.
Yeah, and right now, both top laners currently sitting on the bottom side of the map, trying to use the teleports that they both have available to apply pressure in these side lanes. That being said, top lane minion wave also going in favor of Fallen Gaming. Somebody's going to have to respond to that minion wave that is crashing currently in the top side of the map. As we see a couple of bags coming out by 8K Gaming, which means this is the moment where Fallen Gaming can try and really swing this ward coverage in their favor, but instead they also backed off, trying to get as many items as they can for the team fight that is sure to ensue in the next minute or two.
Yep, Dragon is just about to spawn. It is another Mountain Dragon, so pretty important for any potential neutral objectives like that Baron coming up. Looks like the Echo is checking over the wall with parallel convergence, but side of 8K Gaming is there quicker to respond. They're actually going to be going for it right here.
Oh no, Sasuke, you can't be that far up alone. Immediately gets jumped on by drops. Is going to be picked off without any time to use the ultimate. That was something that you were saying, is that they would, this Echo, if he gets CC'd like that, is not going to be able to retaliate, and that is going to mean the second Mountain Drake going over to 8K Gaming.
This could actually be Baron right now with those 2 Mountain Drakes picked up, and Sasuke is still down for 20 seconds. They can get an advantage and start. The Predator being actually popped by the Skarner on top of the pillar means they're going to be able to get there quick enough, and yep, surely they are going to start. Echo does not have any kind of way of getting to the pit, so this is going to be on Fallen Gaming to be able to stall this one out. Braum is relatively low, so that could be a potential target if they want, but it is just going down so quickly.
They're going to be starting this one up, and his Void Bullet Angel on the backside of the fight has not been jumped on just quite yet, but his Shadowy Figure fighting it out with Lord Skippy in the middle of this team fight. Boone having to use the Death Realm in order to keep this River from blowing up his team. Ari and Kaisa actually picking up the first 2 kills of this fight in the 4v5. Double kill for Void Bullet Angel. He's going to be moving forward, trying to find his way onto Boone, who has to flash away, but it's Sasuke that comes in from the side and is able to secure that one forward. Void Bullet Angel, triple kill for Kaisa, and an amazing ace 4v5 team fight coming out by Fallen Gaming.
Yeah, that's what I was a little bit afraid of. Even though I knew that they had the damage output, they didn't actually finish the Baron. So throughout that entire fight, they were getting hit. They were getting so much AoE damage put down on them that was not on the side of Fallen Gaming. So Baron, big assist marker for them in that team fight, and just really able to split the fight out extremely well. Void Bullet Angel just kind of hovering around on the outskirts until he saw the time where he was able to strike, and just jumping into that backline, able to secure those extra kills. So pretty big play now for the side of Fallen Gaming. They are in the driver's seat now with that 1,000 gold lead.
Yeah, and that, I think you touched on a really great point there, is the fact that it was the full force of Fallen Gaming minus only Sasuke. He got picked off without even using the Echo ultimate, but there was no ultimate spawn. There was no team fight used beforehand. It was just a pick onto the Echo jungle that made that entire play, which means all ultimates were up and available. All summoners spells were up and available for Fallen Gaming going into that team fight. So they had the full power of their 4-man composition going into that, whereas Drops and the rest of his team had used a couple of ultimates in order to pick off the Echo, as well as tanking a lot of that Baron damage, meaning they had a lot of their armor and magic resistance shredded away from them, resulting in a commanding team fight when coming out by Fallen Gaming. They're not going to be gathered around this mid lane. We're going to try and start pressuring this outer turret here. Sasuke taking a lot of damage, but that'll be all she wrote for this fight, is they're pressuring using these Baron minion waves.
Yeah, and definitely something not to underestimate is just how much damage that Baron ended up doing, but also how really slippery the side of Fallen Gaming are. You would kind of expect that with the Ari, the Riven, and the Kaista all still being alive. Very easy for them to just kind of maneuver around that Baron pit. He's actually a little bit caught up, but does end up getting taken down.
Sasuke trying to go onto the Mordekaiser, but it's unfortunately going to get it turned around. Drop slashes forward, gets a great impale onto the Kaisa. Slayer MVX stalling enough time to keep Void Bullet Angel alive, though, and it's going to be a 1-for-0 at the end of the day. Ari trying to get a pick with the last charm there, but has to dash away, afraid for his life that he might get picked if he overstayed too long there.
Yeah, and you definitely could see that Sasuke wanted to go for that kill. Definitely did not expect the amount of damage Mordekaiser was able to put out in that 1v1, and because that happened, then the Skarner went for an ultimate onto Void Bullet Angel. He was able to escape, but just 2 low health bars, and honestly a really good play by 8K Gaming to sort of stabilize the game a little bit more. The gold lead is essentially even though there are 3 more kills on the side of Fallen Gaming. So we'll see now if round 2 in this mid lane, if they're going to be able to break the turret. I would guess that they would be, considering the other members are not in position yet to follow up. Skarner does pop that Predator, though, so we'll see. He does not have the flash this time, but does have the Righteous Glory.
Righteous Glory used as well, trying to get into that fight, but it's not going to be anything too much used there, honestly. This Baron play being extremely slow by Fallen Gaming here. 4 members have responded in the mid lane by AK Gaming. I feel like a team fight is going to break out any moment now, as they're trying to force it onto this mid lane, but we'll have to see if anything is going to come true for one of these teams. Looks like it is not. Just that mid lane outer turret going down to the slow play by Fallen Gaming there.
Yeah, and they also are able to get that bot tower as well. That's kind of what they were hoping for by splitting up 4-1. And, you know, that outer tower in mid lane is not something they can't afford to lose at this point if you're 8K gaming. It's just one outer tower that eventually would be taken down, especially since they had that Baron. They did hold it actually very well with that previous play, but does taken down. Big item purchase is that Leandries by the Mordekaiser, a third Mountain Drake spawning now, and probably going to be pretty handily secured by Fallen Gaming unless 8K wants to try to make a move. Don't think they're going to be able to get there in time, but Ari is on the hunt in that bush looking for any prey.
He is on the hunt indeed. Pink ward dropped by Boone. We'll see Mortally Divine there, so he's not going to be picked off unknowingly. But yeah, the Baron power play ending finally, as now it is Fallen Gaming with a 1,500 gold lead in their favor, but more importantly, they were able to get some turrets and deny that third Mountain Drake. That being said, drops, pops the Predators trying to go in, is able to get forces a lot of ultimates onto himself, but is forced to stopwatch in order to keep himself alive there, and it's Sasuke that finishes off that one. Riven picking up a kill on the backside of the fight as Shadowy Figure goes down. Braum picking up the kill onto the support, but Boons falls down to the 1v1 of the Death from the Lord Skippy. Mortally Divine trying to hop onto Kali here, but it's going to be the Lucian forcing the Ahri to back away here. Void Bullet Angel wants to keep this one going, but the Prey Seeker does not land, and there's going to be no Killer Instinct follow-up, and that is a 3-for-1 at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it looked like Drops just got a little bit ambitious, I feel like, going for that kind of a play. He ulted the Riven, I believe, who had the QSS, so that ultimate was not really that useful, and it was really difficult for the rest of 8K Gaming to follow up from that position that they were in. So, you know, Fallen Gaming, again, doing a really good job of just separating out the fight, making it difficult for the group up of 8K to really use it at its full potential. And I think now that the Kai'Sa has the QSS and that Guinsoo's plus the attack speed boots, I think this is the point where Lucian starts getting outscaled in terms of how much DPS can be put out. Sure, he's definitely really strong. He has that Borg, he has that Essence Reaver, and he's currently building probably towards a Phantom Dancer as well to deal with the burst. But I just don't really think that with those two items plus a QSS, Kai'Sa is ever going to get out-damaged by the Lucian unless he is just untouched completely in any of these fights.
Absolutely. Kai'Sa finally starting to come online. That 2-item power spike, being able to pick up the Guinsoo's her known strong point in the game. From here, she only becomes more and more of a team fight monster. That being said, taking a look at how many QSSs, we have 3 Skarner taxes paid so far. Echo and Ahri choosing not to opt into paying their dues yet. They have broken stopwatches, which means Echo was able to finish off his Zanya's finally, but it's going to be Ahri, the only one left with no way to be able to deal with this Skarner. So we'll have to keep an eye out who Drops decides to aim for in these team fights. He's going to have to be very particular in who he goes for. If he does find his way onto Mortally Divine, though, I think that would be almost a guaranteed kill at that point. Ahri being so squishy and having no way to prevent the follow-up damage that would ensue.
I think either the Ahri or the Echo at this point, even though he does have Zhonya's completed, it doesn't really matter because he'll just be suppressed the entire time. So Drops by no means has lost valuable targets. The Echo is still very useful. The Ahri is also pretty useful, even though she is more of that utility Ahri with the Glacial Augment as her primary rune. So I fully expect them to look for picks on the Echo specifically, because I think he's going to be more willing to try to walk up. And it actually looks like I think all 5 pink wards for the side of Fallen Gaming are around this Baron pit, so they have pretty much complete vision control around their end of the river as well as the pit itself.
And something to keep in mind here, Lord Skippy and Shadowy Figure again on this bottom side of the map. It is only the Riven that has the teleport up and available to be, or in order to be able to respond to any mid-lane team fights or Baron team fights that happen. So we'll keep an eye out, see which one of these teams decides to start a fight. Using this teleport advantage that they have for quite a while here, honestly, will be huge for Fallen Gaming if they can find the fight that they want.
Yeah, and Riven just kind of silently has been winning this split push just because of how much better pressure she is able to put down with the minions. Those minion waves will just slowly chip away at towers if you give them time.
Ooh, that being said, Drops flash forwards. He's able to find the impale onto the Echo, the one that you were mentioning earlier. It is going to be a continued team fight. Mortally Divine trying to get onto Boone here, getting a lot of damage down, but Glacial Augment Ahri is not known for being the most strongest of 1v1 champions, so it's just going to be a quick pick onto the jungler, and that is all she wrote for this team fight. Oh, wait. Shadowy Figure has something to say about that. Lord Skippy getting picked off here. A lot of stuns being dropped onto this Riven. Flash used to try and keep himself alive as Skarner is able to follow up. QSS used more dashes, more flashes being dropped in order to try and continue this fight, but it's going to be no pick onto the Riven there as Lord Skippy gets out barely with his life.
Yep, just yet again, using that flash on drops to go for the vulnerable target. I think Echo is much higher priority than the Ahri at this point. Oh, this could be a good fight.
These team fights are not done. Slayer MVX goes in. Shadowy Figure trying to hop onto the backline, but is not going to be able to find anything. Colin barely not going to be able to finish off this Leon as a great charm finds his way into the Skarner as Void Bullet Angel picks up that kill. Lord Skippy trying to keep this one going onto the Renekton. Double kill for Void Bullet Angel so far. Killer Instinct has been used, so he's going to have to walk his way back over to this fight. Kali picks up the kill onto Mortally Divine, but Lord Skippy again winning the 1v1 in the Death Realm. Sasuke finally respawned, is able to come in and help this one out. Flash ward from Void Bullet Angel will pick up yet another kill, but is killing himself at the same time. But it does not matter because Sasuke and Skippy are the only two members left alive on either of these teams at the end of the day.
Yeah, and just yet another fight going in the favor of Fallen Gaming. These extended fights where they're able to separate out 8K Gaming. It was looking pretty good for them, especially when they tried to start off on that Leona, but because Shadowy Figure flashes over and goes for that kill, he separates himself. He gives himself to be a good target for this Kai'Sa. And after that, the Lucian just isn't strong enough to match Kai'Sa with this Death Stance and the QSS. So we're starting to slowly see these fights get turned around now for Fallen Gaming in a bit more of a commanding way. I still think that 8K has the opportunity to win. It's just a lot harder when they're using that flash as pretty much their primary engage, because it's just not a low enough cooldown for them to be able to go for 2 of those plays in a row and punish.
Yeah, and it honestly feels like a lot of this early game lead that AK Gaming had for themselves, they had a hard time transitioning into the mid lane stages of this game. You know, they have the 5v5 death ball, but they were just never able to make it work quite as well as we were hoping. A lot of that coming down to the fact that they lost the Baron fight at around 22 minutes into the game, giving that one over to Fallen Gaming, giving them such a swing in gold in favor of this mechanically outplay style team composition. And so now that you've put the gold advantage in favor of the Kai'Sa, in favor of the Riven, these people who are known for the flashy plays, to be able to pick off members who step out of position for half a second, it means a lot of this pressure is now put onto AK Gaming to look for the correct plays, to look for the correct team fights, or else somebody's going to get picked off.
Yeah, and they just need to be able to play that front to back effectively. Mordekaiser will get slightly tankier as it goes on, but something we really haven't touched on is it's so difficult for him to actually kill anyone in the Death Realm, even when he separates them and catches them out, because pretty much everyone on this team either has enough CC to kite him through the whole duration, or is just too quick and more mobile than him. He's not really able to land any damage for himself. And we're definitely seeing that being one of the reasons why this Mordekaiser pick is not as effective as it was in that last game. He has had a couple of good moments, but as of recently, it's just a lot harder for him to be able to execute.
Something I want to point out, QSS finally picked up by Sasuke. This Ego is tired of being flashed and dragged away by the Skarner. He has finally picked up his Skarner tax there, so he's no longer going to be a great pick for drops here, meaning Mortally Divine, the only member left on Fallen Gaming that does not have the QSS ready and available for himself. We'll have to see if Drops recognizes this, and if Drops is going to be able to find his way onto this Ahri, as Baron has respawned once again for the 3rd time this game, as both teams are trying to develop ward coverage and looking to pick up yet another Baron.
And, I think that in the regards of how the QSS is actually going to benefit both of these teams, I think that AK Gaming can do something a little bit tricky. It will require almost perfect execution on how they want to do it, but they need to use Boone's ultimate to essentially bait out a QSS of a target that they're looking for. Because the QSS does work against Mordekaiser ultimate, which is a good way for these backliners to sort of double up on the usefulness against the Skarner or the Mordekaiser ulti. But if the carry that they're looking for feels threatened by the Mordekaiser ulti, if they burn that QSS, they can immediately go on it and snatch it with Skarner ultimate. So we might actually be seeing Boone trying to flash engage and go for something like that to then have drops follow up after that QSS is burned. It's just really difficult to see how they're going to go for a play if it's not a flash ultimate on the Ahri.
Yeah, and even then, Ahri does have the flash available, does have her own ultimate, which is another 3 quick dashes to try and escape something. If it's not immediately coming out by drops without and Mortally Divine doesn't see it coming, it's going to be very difficult to be able to catch this Ahri off guard. That being said, the ward coverage around this Baron heavily in favor of AK Gaming. They have so many pinks around this backside of the pit. Meanwhile, the front side, a lot of it is kind of mixed between Fallen Gaming and AK, but it looks like Fallen Gaming is rotating their way up there to try and clear this one out, try and get some pressure around that top side of the map.
Yeah, and at this point, with Baron being alive, depending on how each team fight actually goes, there's some real threat that whoever loses these next couple of fights will probably just end up losing the game because the death timers are going to be so long. And just kind of in terms of the momentum of the game, it definitely feels like this is a lot more in the favor of Fallen Gaming. Just whenever they're looking for a straight up fight now, it feels like those champions have gotten to a point where they just do enough damage that even if they're CC'd, not going to be too bad. But Riven is potentially caught out here. Looks like they want to go for a play onto her.
Mortally Divine goes forward, tries to find the char, but a great solar filler finds his way onto drops. The Skarner is going to be CC'd back and forth, back and forth. Boone has not used the death rum just quite yet. Slayer MVX only is able to find his way onto Neatnik. Finally, the death rum is dropped, but it's going to be the Kaisa that dives way too deep onto Kali there. Is going to get picked off by the 80 carry of AK Gaming. It's going to be the Ahri also turned around. Sosuk, though, with the great ultimate, is able to find 2 for himself, but it does not matter because Kali is still alive. Triple kill for the Lucian, and a commanding team fight win for AK Gaming.
That's a big void spot right there by Void Bullet Angel. Going in, definitely overestimating how safe he really feels. As soon as he did that, that was the team fight lost for them right there. Just he put himself in the back line of 8K Gaming and just immediately stunned up, immediately taken down. And that's going to be Elder Dragon and Baron picked up for 8K Gaming. The game is just completely swung back into their favor.
Yeah, and with empowered minions and empowered champions, it's going to be a huge swing in tempo. And immediately, the gold lead has also evened out. If not, another 3,000 gold lead being thrown back in favor of AK Gaming. Previously, we were seeing 4,000 or 5,000 for Fallen. But just like that, this game has swung back and forth. Both of these teams trying their best in order to play these team fights. But this time around, Void Bullet Angel just overestimating himself a little bit too much. Typically, he's followed in on the backside of these team fights and cleaned up kills through that manner, waiting to use the killer instinct at the very end of the fight. But this time, starts off with the fight using it, puts himself in a bad position, and gets picked off and punished for it immediately.
And you know, like even though that was a really good fight for AK Gaming, that was pretty much as perfect as they could want. It was more on the mental error of Fallen Gaming making a mistake rather than them making more of a proactive play. That Skarner was definitely going to be going down if he was not able to barely escape into the back after he got like pretty stunned up by the Leona. So I don't want to, like, usually when teams get an advantage like that and they get the Baron, they get an Elder or something after a really convincing team fight win, I'd normally say take it slow, try to be as methodical as you possibly can. AK Gaming needs to pump the gas as quickly as they can, because when this Baron and Elder run out, I don't see them.
They're pumping the gas for sure, as Leona's going to get pulled back by the Impale. Kali picks up the first kill of this team fight. Rampage for the Lucian, now picking up so many kills in the past couple of fights, and it's going to be just the Leona going down, as the rest of Fallen Gaming has to run away with their tail in between their legs. Health bars extremely low.
Yeah, that's exactly what they need to do. AK Gaming recognizes that they're not going to win this game if they wait out for this Elder and Baron to go down, because the chances of them winning another fight around both of those objectives as the game gets later and the scaling gets more into the favor of Fallen Gaming, this is their moment. This is when they need to break the base and at least put enough map pressure to kind of equalize the mismatch of power that they have. Renekton now going up here. He does have the Spear of Shojin, taking down the tower very quickly for himself. with all of that empowered Mountain Dragon damage. So this is pretty good. He could still go in for some trades.
He's definitely trying to go forward onto Lord Skippy there. Takes on the turret with a double Mountain Dragon and the Elder. He used that teleport in order to get into that top side, using the team mat as well to clear out these waves. Raven trying to go forward, trying to deal some damage back. Uses the QSS to deal with the stun coming out from Renekton, but is still a 1v1 advantage for Shadowy Figures. He's able to pick up the inhibitor on the top side of the map. He's continuing to press this one out. There's another impale coming down onto the Ari this time. The QSS list member and Slayer MBX dropping extremely low. Kali can turn it to keep this one going. Voids is going to be Boone that has to use the Delta Realm and his own stopwatch underneath the turret, but Sasuke dropping extremely low for that play by the Mordekaiser, and they're going to be able to pressure onto this inhibitor turret on the bottom side of the map. As only, again, one pick coming in by AK Gaming, but that's all they need in order to win the team fight. Void Bullet Angel uses the Killer Instinct to try and finish off Boone there, but only gets one proc of Q and is not going to be enough to finish off that kill. Meanwhile, Shadowy Figure, Lord Skippy continuing the fight on the top side of the map. Lord Skippy wants to keep this one going. Flash forward, finds some Renekton, finds the ultimate, but it's going to be Renekton ultimate that keeps himself alive there. Finally, the GA proc as 3 members are there. The Cavalry has returned for backup, and Sasuke gets to shut down on the top side of the map.
Yep. All right. So now Ari does have the QSS. I think a big thing actually that allowed 8K Gaming to sort of break through that little bit of a stalemate in the bot lane was because the Leona QSS was a longer cooldown than the Skarner ulti. They were able to burn the QSS from that previous tower play and dive in the bot inner tower, and then immediately just go on the Leona and go specifically onto Mortally Divine, who didn't have the QSS available. And they were just able to get the chain stuns. They were able to finally CC their targets because those QSS cooldowns were just too long to actually go for any of those plays. And this is a really good net play for 8K Gaming. Sure, they aren't able to just win the game outright, but with 2 inhibs down, as second Elder is going to be respawning, Baron will be respawning as those things are still down. That's the map pressure that 8K Gaming needs to at least keep the game going in their favor until they're able to get those objectives again. Clearly, they're going to be fighting for those neutral objectives because it's just too strong to give away, and the side of Fallen Gaming is not weak by any means or regards. It's just the map pressure. It's just in terms of the tempo of how the map looks, like being afraid of a potential TP from Shadowy Figure, even though he doesn't have it right now. They probably aren't tracking the TP cooldown as well as they would have been in the early game. So it's all about the mental pressure of the map. Or are we losing too much in our base for any kind of play that we're going outside?
And immediately have AK Gaming running down through this mid lane and bottom side of the map, trying to get ward coverage around this Elder Drake. As you mentioned, second Elder, too big of a buff in order to give away drops. Props to Predator, props to Righteous Glory is trying to get into this mid lane, but is not going to find anything there as an immediate backup by Fallen Gaming. Keep in mind, all QSSs are up and available currently, so whoever he decides to impale will be able to negate that one. Drops continuing forward. Is not going to use the impale just quite yet. Slayer MVX uses the QSS on Justice Sunny. He gets pulled back. It's going to be Kali picking up the first kill of the fight onto the Leona support. No solar flare has been used. GA being procced by Lord Skippy. He's going to be going down in the backside of this fight as well. Don't think he's going to be able to pick up that kill. Is Kali dropping the QSS as his own? A double kill coming out, and it's going to be a quick 3-for-1 in favor of AK Gaming as they are able to find the picks. Great charm as Drops goes down to the Q of Void Bullet Angel, finding a great back kill there. One more member down, but double inhibitor is going to be going down there. Nexus turret's being focused. Kali taking a little bit of the pressure. Neat Nick making sure that the charm does not follow up with anything else. Void Bullet Angel has to walk away from this one, dropping extremely low. Those minions are just going to kill him off. Kali going godlike at the end of this game. He's going to be able to end the game off as well as AK Gaming pick up the second win. They're moving on to match point.
Oh man, 8K Gaming pulling off a really, really nice comeback. And I really thought that at the point where Fallen Gaming had QSSs and they were definitely looking stronger, especially after that Baron flub that AK Gaming had earlier, that they would be able to close it out. But just really nice play. This is what we were talking about with the layering of CC, why it's so difficult to actually deal with. Every member of Fallen Gaming has a QSS that game, so they have a way to initially get out. The problem is when you're all grouped up like that, there are just too many stuns to account for. As we saw in that last fight right there, Leona QSS to the Skarner E-stun, but immediately got suppressed afterwards. And Braum was just able to kind of take over the rest of that fight. Really nice glacial path thrown right down that little choke point. So difficult for the backliners to get into position to help out either. So very split fight, but in the favor of 8K Gaming. And like you said, they are up 2-0 now in this series and taking a pretty commanding series lead. One very quick game and one very methodical, quite close game as well. But we'll see how Fallen Gaming is going to respond in this third game. I believe 8K Gaming is probably going to be choosing blue side again, so we'll probably be seeing a similar draft style to first game.
Yeah, and with that, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to a short delay here as we get prepped and ready for Game 3. AK Gaming taking a strong lead in this series. Are we going to see a potential turnaround by Fallen Gaming here, or is this one going to be shut out 3-0? Give us a few minutes. We'll be back in Champion Select for Game 3, and we'll be able to tell you guys then. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you guys soon.
Any minute now, painted picture close, coming down on me. Always letting go when the lights are low, feel you underneath. And I won't wake until taking you down my spine tonight. Won't fake a strip naked while I'm just daydreaming, deep breathing, keep thinking into you. Daydreaming, you're feeling it too. Daydreaming, you weaken the seams of my truth. Daydreaming, you're feeling it too. Slipping in and out, let you hold me down, keep me off my feet. Drop the ground below, losing all control, realign me. And I keep making these spaces inside your mind tonight. Won't fake the straight naked while I'm just daydreaming, deep breathing, keep thinking into you. Daydreaming, you're feeling it too. Daydreaming, you weaken the seams of my truth. Daydreaming, you're feeling it too.
Call it what you want, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Tell me what you need, I'll find a way. I'll find a way. Oh, oh. And if I ask time to stand still, could I come a little closer? And if I asked you to love me, what if I asked you to love me? Could I steal your heart? Could I steal your heart? And if I asked you to love me, and if you wanted to love me, let me steal your heart. Open up your heart a little more, just a little more. Oh, leaving all your fear behind the door. And if I asked time to stand still, could I come a little closer? And if I asked you to love me, what if I asked you to love me? Could I steal your heart? Could I steal your heart? And if I asked you to love me, and if you wanted to love me, let me steal your
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back as we're going to be hopping into the third game of the night between 8K Gaming and Fallen Gaming. On the blue side, we have 8K. On the red side, we have Fallen. Again, we've already gone through the pro draft, and we're just going to be following up with these teams. My name is LoudThoughts. I'm joined by Obongo, and we're at match point already in the night. 8K Gaming coming out with a commanding 2-game lead here. What are we looking for Fallen Gaming to do coming into this third game in order to try and turn the tempo around?
First big point for me was to get Sasuke on an actual jungler. I understand the strengths of Echo in the jungle. However, it's another one of those champions where I don't personally believe it's very strong in a organized team competitive environment. I think it's just very easy to be punished, especially by things like we saw the Skarner, Braum, things with hard CC that keep him from being able to ulti. And it's just hard to play well, even for pro players. So I really like the adjustment. I like getting him on the Jarvan, something we saw a lot of success from Drops in that first game. But conversely, Drops is now getting this Gragas, which had been banned out in the 2 previous games. So we'll see now what he is going to be able to do with that champion.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that Sasuke has finally switched over to something like the likes of the Jarvan. I've also noticed that Boone has had his Mordekaiser banned away this game, which means he's going to be resorting back to the Lux in the mid lane. Rakan going back to the hands of Neat Nick, but is going to be with Bullet Angel piloting the Xayah this time around.
Yeah, and that Xayah pick was to basically dissuade the Xayah Rakan from being picked up, because the Rakan was picked first in this draft order, followed by the Xayah Morgana. So actually a pretty good idea of the flex to have that Morgana picked up. But at the same time, I feel like it's more of just like a takeaway to try to keep the members of 8K Gaming from really being proactive. I'm not really sure how well it's going to be used in this mid lane. It feels like they've just been putting a lot more utility focus for Mortally Divine in this mid lane, rather than actually letting him have any kind of carry potential. The Lissandra, the Glacial Augment Ari, and now this Morgana. Feels like they're really trying to put all of their eggs in this Void Bullet Angel basket to try to protect him as much as possible, but just haven't really been able to find a lot of success. But I do feel like the team comp that Fallen Gaming has drafted this time is a lot more in line with what will give them success from what they've had previously.
Something I want to point out as well is Lord Skippy going back to the Aatrox in the top lane. And that is a champion we haven't seen a whole lot of as of recent due to a couple of nerfs thrown his direction. Most specifically, his recent wave clear nerfs have hit him the hardest out of anything that we've seen so far. A lot of that just makes his Aatrox so difficult to pull off in the top lane. He can't deal with minion waves at all anymore. And because of that, he loses a lot of traits. He still needs a couple of items in order to become that 1v1, the team fight monster that he becomes with the lifesteal. You know, he needs to pick up the Death Stance, needs to pick up the Black Cleaver. But now it means that his ability to shove out these waves throughout the early game to use the Q on the minions is greatly reduced, and so now he's forced to only being a 1v1 style champion that needs a couple of items, and his late game just isn't nearly as good as the likes of other things like a Jax or, you know, other top lane bruisers to go towards these split pushes in order to pick him over those style of champions. So I'm going to be interested to see how Lord Skippy is going to be able to pilot that Aatrox on the top lane, how he's going to be able to make that one work this time around with this nerfed version of that top laner.
Yeah, and I just think that overall, Fallen Gaming has the better team fighting team. I'm a little hesitant to say that, depending on how the Gragas and the Shen are both played in these team fights. The only reason I say that is just because Morgana plus Leona against a Rakan, that's not going to be a very fun time for this Rakan. This is very much a different style that 8K Gaming is coming out with, like a much more heavy poke and siege style, rather than what we've traditionally seen of just going for those 5v5 fights. So if they're going to drop a game, I could see 8K Gaming dropping a game here just because they have deviated a little bit from what I feel like gives them the most success. But it's also good to be able to try these different team comps and see what you can kind of take away from those as well.
Yeah, and with that, we're going to go ahead and throw it back over to the spectator delay. We got about a minute until we hop into the game itself, so don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back in just a second here with the third game of the series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going to be hopping into Game 3 here between 8K Gaming and Fallen Gaming. On the blue side, we have 8K with Shadowy Figure playing the Shen in the top lane, Drops on his Gragas jungle, Boone playing the Lux this time around, and Kali and Neatnik with the Ezreal Recon in the bot lane.
Yep, and back on the red side now is Fallen Gaming. That's Lord Skippy with the Aatrox in the top lane, Sasuke now on that Jarvan in the jungle, Mortally Divine with the Morgana in the mid, and Void Bullet Angel and Slayer MVX with that Xayah Leona bot lane.
Again, we're only seeing 5-point defense coming out by these two teams here. That being, or not quite, we do see 4 members though being gathered around that top side of the map, wanting to deny any kind of an invade. They probably have seen AK Gaming stepping forward and might be even looking for some kind of engage of their own, but nothing will really be thrown back and forth here. As Drops, though, dropping a little far forward. He's going to be able to get out there alive with a body slam, but a little aggressive on his end.
Yeah, just because he had that body slam, he knew he could be moving up a little bit more. Did not get a ward down, though. Looks like that's going to be on the Shen to potentially try to get that. So it will be secured for them. I don't believe it was put down on the side of Fallen Gaming, so a little bit less information now for the side of them. But both junglers are going to be clearing their respective red sides, and we should be seeing relatively normal laning.
And that's kind of a weird adaptation that we haven't seen used this series so far, that we see a lot of other places, is that red side junglers will start on the top side of the map because it gives them access to their Krugs so early, being a key point for jungle clearing. That being said, engaged by Slayer MVX, going forward, gets a good trade down onto Neatnik. I thought it was going to continue more than there, but yeah, Jarvan starting on the top side to give him access to his Krugs.
Yep, and in this bot lane, it's going to be very easy for the Leona to just go in already, getting that aggressive down onto the Ezreal. You're not really expecting the Ezreal to have even a remote chance of winning the 2v2 here. His whole goal is to just poke with Klepto, get as much gold as he can, farm up with that tier. He has the teleport as well, so expect him to just kind of get as much gold as he can, go back, get a tier, and teleport back in. And then that's when he'll start kind of being a little bit more of a presence in the lane when he has that tier Sheen combo. But you know, the whole point of Ezreal is once you get the those 2 items completed out. I personally like going Triforce, even though I know Iceborne is sometimes the better option. I think that it wouldn't be that terrible in this game. Once you have that, and plus the Manamune completed, that's when Ezreal really starts to shine in terms of his damage in the mid game. The key is surviving laning phase and actually getting there.
Yeah, and Ezreal, once he does get those couple of items, as you mentioned, really becomes quite an oppressive style of AD carry. Being able to throw out so much harass back and forth, a consistent amount of DPS, really, and more importantly, being able to have that self-peel on a very low cooldown using his E, the Arcane Shift, to just blink away from engages, bait the Leona further into his own team, and dodge away from bindings or CC being thrown his direction. That being said, though, just a lot of farming going on across the map so far. Nothing too serious started yet. I do see that Jarvan has found his way behind the bottom lane of AK Gaming, though, and he's going to be trying to recall there, but he's in a precarious position to look for a gank at the moment.
I don't really think that we're ever going to see any of these lanes do anything unless there's just a massive outplay or misplay by any of them, just because of how safe they are. I think the Aatrox versus Shen is the only one we could potentially be seeing a solo kill coming in, just because of all that trading they're trying to do against each other and just how much damage the Aatrox really does in the early game. But I think this is completely on Sasuke and Drops to really make things happen. They both have champions that have a lot of priority early game and that have a lot of CC to kind of follow up and set up their lanes to get kills. So it's going to be very important for both of those junglers to try to get as much pressure down as possible.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that Sasuke did not steal away this Krug camps while he was on the bottom side of the map there. It may have been still on cooldown at the moment, but as you were saying, these junglers are going to be the focal point of this game. These lanes not being too explosive in and of themselves, despite the fact that there is a Leona, the Ezreal is just too safe of a champion to make anything really happen. That being said, Jarvan hovering around this mid lane as Drops also sitting in that bot lane bush. They know he's there. The pink ward has been dropped, which means he realizes he's been warded out and he's going to back away instead.
Yep, but just getting control of that tri-bush is really important. They're probably not going to be too far pushed up because they are the Ezreal lane, but still good information to have if they potentially were going to get dove by Sasuke. That'd probably happen around that level 6 mark if they did. But yeah, I mean, just in mid lane, it's just going to be a wave clear. Whoever gets priority in mid will move out of the lane faster to assist their jungler. Don't really expect too much of a gank. I think that the Morgana Jarvan is slightly more favored just because it's almost impossible for Boone to be able to snare Morgana because of the spell shield she'll have. So that's realistically what we'll see. I think the Gragas is just in this mid lane to look to help shove out that lane so Lux gets a good back timing because she doesn't have the teleport for herself. So it looks like that is what's going on. Scuttle Crab is spawning now up in this top side. Gragas is just waiting for that one to spawn as well.
Yeah, and we saw on the bot side just a moment ago why this bottom lane is so safe coming out by the side of AK Gaming. As soon as that Zenith Blade lands by Slayer MVX, an Arcane Shift by Kali means he gets out for free. No continued engage. Sasuke shows up on the top side, though. Is going to be able to get the EQ follow-up despite the flash from Shadowy Figure there. He does not have the top available. Lord Skippy also using the ultimate of his own. It has to flash away from the Gragas re-engage. Morgana, first mid laner in the top side, is able to find the first blood. Third Q from Lord Skippy does not land on the drops there. Who's able to flash out of that fight. But the roam from the mid laners of Fallen Gaming give them first blood.
Yep, and that's exactly what I was saying. Mid lane is never going to have any action in that lane specifically. It's all about who gets priority, who gets to shove out, and who gets to go help. Morgana much more attuned, and because the Lux had gone back, she was able to leave that lane, help pick up that kill for herself. But unfortunately, Drops was not level 6. Otherwise, he would have actually probably cleaned up both of those kills on his own. But because he used the entirety of his burst with the Predator Flash Body Slam and didn't land the Q onto Lord Skippy, they were not able to get the trade kill back. So not quite able to finish the job up in the top lane. And because of that, I'm going to give a little bit of an advantage and that first blood over to Fallen Gaming.
With that being said, we're immediately back into just the farming game. Neither one of these sides of the map has developed any kind of lead, including despite the fact that there is that first blood in the mid lane, but it's only a 100 gold difference currently. With that, Drops is on the bottom side of the map. He's clearing out wards, trying to see if there's a way for him to start a fight on the bottom side with all these minions crashing into the wave. But I don't think he's going to be able to make anything happen here. So he's just going to have to walk away. Morgana also in the river, potentially getting collapsed on here. The Morgana binding does not land. Mortally Divine pops the ultimate, is trying to get some damage down, but it's just forcing Drops and Boone to walk away from himself. Gragas does get the ultimate. There's going to be the barrel. Neat Nick comes in, though, and he's able to clean that one up as a kill returned for AK Gaming.
Yep, and just really good waiting out of the Black Shield. They have enough magic damage between the Gragas and the Lux to be able to burn that one down. So because of that, spend a lot of ults, but they are able to even up that kill score 1-1 now. Unfortunately, Neat Nick does pick it up, so not the best gold distribution, but that is going to net them this Mountain Dragon for themselves.
And getting that neutral objective is probably the biggest advantage that they're going to be able to get out of a play like that. Having the bot lane, Kali and Neat Nick already pushing up that minion wave, as we previously mentioned, means that they were able to rotate over to help get that pick on Immortally Divine. Looking topside, though, a little bit of a CS difference. The largest we've seen so far this game coming in for Lord Skippy, constantly taking these trades with a Shadowy Figure. And I feel like this is the first time that Lord Skippy has really started to develop an in-lane advantage for himself this series. I want to see what he's going to be able to do with it, and if he's going to be able to pressure out Shadowy Figure throughout the rest of this laning phase.
Yeah, and, you know, that's just kind of the nature of how the Aatrox versus Shen matchup goes. Shen smartly buying that Bramble Vest early on to kind of cut the healing from Aatrox as much as possible for laning phase-wise. But, I mean, after the little bit of a fiasco in the top lane, not really able to make that gank work and all of the CS that he lost, he's actually doing a pretty good job, I feel like, of keeping as close to this Aatrox as possible. I'm not expecting him to win this lane or even be close in CS at all, just because of sort of how these events have transpired, but definitely doing a pretty notable job. just holding pressure against this Aatrox. They could potentially be looking. Oh no, he dashed forward.
Oh no, he dashed forward indeed. EQ comes in from Sosuk. This is textbook easy clean up. The W comes in, and Lord Skippy is able to pick himself another kill in the top lane. Shadowy Figure did not have the ward coverage and did not know that Sosuk was there. So a great game coming in by the Jarvan, is able to pick up another kill on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and if you're a Shadowy Figure, your goal is never to use your dash offensively unless you're getting a gank from your Gragas. You have to save that because it's your only saving grace against a Jarvan and an Aatrox that are going to gunning for you in any kind of a gank. I don't think that he has the ability to actually 1v1 him either. So it's just a little bit of a mental error in that case.
Yeah, and you hate to see that, honestly, coming up by Shadowy Figure there. He didn't know the Jarvan was there. He gets collapsed on. It's an easy kill. It's going to result in a turret plating going over for Lord Skippy. And the largest gold lead we've seen so far this game. Not quite at 1,000 just yet, but it is something. It is something that they can start and try and work around. I haven't seen as much pressure out of these junglers as we were hoping to see in this early game, as we mentioned during Champion Select in the earlier stages, but a lot of people rotating through this bottom side of the jungle, through this river in particular, trying to get the ward coverage around the mid bot side.
Yep, and looks like because the Morgana base right there, they're going to try to get that wave pushed back into tower, maybe try to get a tower plating for the Lux herself. And, you know, Shen now down quite a bit of CS. I'm surprised that knockup didn't actually hit. He does not have the taunt to be able to go out because he used it to go for that ward, so he'll take a little bit of a trade against him right there.
Yeah, but despite the fact that this Aatrox is able to be winning these trades versus Shadowy Figure, it's going to take multiple rotations of the Aatrox's abilities in order to pick up this one. Flash forward, though, by drops is going straight onto this Morgana. Mortally Divine, forced to use a stopwatch. Is going to be able to flash over the wall, but the auto attack by Boone follows it up. And again, this Morgana gets picked off by a flash engage from Gragas.
Yeah, just really, really good usage of that pink ward over the wall. Didn't have the reaction time to be able to black shield the knock-up initially. So even though he didn't get knocked back because of the Gragas cask and the black shield, it was enough to burn it down immediately. The rest of the damage goes out, and you know, it's really hard to flash an auto attack like that, especially when you can time it perfectly out of Zonia's. So just another really nice heads-up play by both Boone and Drops, trying to create more pressure around that mid lane in a lane that's pretty difficult to gank on its own.
Yeah, once again, we do see Sosuk on the top side of the map. This time, Drops is nearby. Lux ultimate used on the bottom side to clear out this minion wave. And we haven't really talked about this bottom wave in a hot minute here, so we can go ahead and revisit that once again. 3 turret platings going over in favor of Void Bullet Angel and Fallen Gaming. Rift Herald, though, started on the top side of the map. We didn't notice that before. Jarvan has caught this one out. Everyone is rotating over. Team fight is bound to start here. EQ coming out by the Jarvan, but the ultimate coming out from the Rakan is going to be able to stall that one out. I don't know who got that one. It looks like it is going to be the blue side team that's able to pick that one up. Kali picking up the first kill onto Jarvan. Mortally Divine returns it immediately onto Shen, though. Dropping extremely low. Dashboard from Lord Skippy is able to pick that one up. And then Leona, finding his way onto Rakan, is able to drop the Ignite. Is it going to be enough? It is not, but it is going to be still the kill going over due to the help of Lord Skippy, who manages to finish that one off as well.
Yeah, and it looks like Gragas was able to secure, Smite secure that Rift Herald, but it's going to cost them a couple tower plates in the mid lane. Nice little fight by Fallen Gaming to be able to match that play that they were going for on the Rift Herald. But, you know, that was all without the Lux, who is quite a bit of their damage right now on the side if you're 8K gaming. So, honestly, not a terrible outcome because they do get the Rift Herald. They're not going to be able to use it for turret plates, but they will definitely be able to use it to try to maybe force some pressure as this Mountain Dragon is coming out. Nice binding landed by Mortally Divine. Looks like they might be potentially going for a steal.
Gragas.
Get the reset.
Ooh, Featherstorm used by Void Bullet Angel to provide CC. A lot of damage being dropped down onto Drops. Has to force the Shen, but it was not going to be enough. Stand United does not come through. Jarvan trying to keep this one going, but instead takes the Blast Cone over the wall. It's able to smite out that Drake and finish it off. An interesting use of the Featherstorm, but it worked out.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I don't really know why Drops didn't react at all to what was going on right there, but you know, get the Mountain Drake and you're able to pick up a kill alongside that. So Fallen Gaming giving themselves yet another victory around these neutral objectives, and I feel like they just have the stronger team comp to commit to this as long as they don't get poked out initially before they start the fight or any kind of neutral objective. Then they have a really good chance.
The other issue I do see coming out is AK has a great chance to make a pick around this Lux Boon. 1-0 and 1 has been going completely even in this mid lane laning phase. Has completed the Luden's Echo as well, and once Lux picks up that Luden's Echo, and typically I would like to see an Oblivion Orb at this point, but has, you know, sitting on that 1 item power spike, 1.5 item with all the magic pen you can get from Stork Boots and Oblivion Orb, it will mean that this Lux can start really looking for picks that are going to chunk people out. If Void Bullet Angel is not ready on the trigger with his ultimate, he could get immediately blown up in a team fight. Same with Mortally Divine if he's not ready with that black shield. So we'll have to keep an eye out for Boon and how his Lux is going to be able to look for these picks. Not to mention that could be paired with other members of his team as well.
And there's a lot of members that can be picked off just between Gragas and Lux's damage. They have enough between the two of them to pretty much burst out anybody on this team, even the Aatrox, until he gets that Death's Dance. So, you know, you definitely want drops as soon as that flash is available to look for yet another play. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to hit Void Bullet Angel because of that Featherstorm, but there's just a lot of opportunities that they have to look for those plays.
Rift Scuttle going over to Fallen Gaming on the top side of the map. Not the biggest of objectives at the current moment, but seeing as how there is nothing else for them to take. No Dragon, no Baron just quite yet. They're going to opt for that. Drops though. Sees that, goes into the top side, finds his way onto Mortally Divine. Doesn't even have to use the flash for this play in order to pick off the Morgana as the Gragas barrel comes out. Mortally Divine though is able to kite that one out. Does a fantastic job using the ultimate, getting a return kill for himself before finally going down to Boon's Lux.
And that was actually the big kill they needed, because I think Gragas was going to throw the Rift Herald down as soon as they got that kill, but because he goes down, I don't know if it's actually going to... It might time out before.
Oh, the Solar Flare, their EQ Cataclysm coming out. This is textbook Neat Nick, able to stall that one out, and the Arcane Barrage by Kali, actually, is the only one being able to pick up a kill off of the power play made by Fallen Gaming.
That was just really well played, and honestly kind of expected, I feel like, just because Ezreal Rakan is just so mobile on its own. Between Arcane Shift, Flash on Ezreal, and Neat Nick having the cleanse available, it's really hard to lock them down. They do get that mid-outer tower, which is really important, but, you know, they don't get anything else. They actually lose net members on that, and even in the towers, because Lux was able to get that bot lane outer tower. So in the end, it's still actually a play in the favor of 8K Gaming.
Yeah, they did get the mid lane turret, so they'll have access to the enemy jungle, but as you said, in terms of gold, it wasn't really in advantage of either one of these teams. If anything, going for 8K Gaming because of the additional kill that they picked up there. Now is the point where we want to see these teams start gathering together. We've already seen them start grouping up through this mid lane, but getting the ward coverage is the next step for either one of these teams in order to make the pushes for the advantages on neutral objectives that will be spawning in just a couple of minutes here.
Yep, Baron up in about a minute and a half. Neither of these teams, I would say, ready to take on that as a objective just yet, but getting pretty close to that point once they get a couple more items for themselves. Looks like the Xayah is going for the Essence Reaver IE build, so more of a focus on using the lethal tempo as her attack speed rather than any Zeal item. Ezreal now has those two items though. He has the Iceborne, he has that Mirror Mana, not fully stacked, but we'll see what they are going to be able to do. This is the point where they are going to kind of have their chance.
Hold on one second. It looks like Stream is freaking out. They say it's dead. I don't know if Stream is continuing to go. Alright, looks like it's revived, so we're good to go. We're totally fine. It was just a little bit of a buffer pause on my end. I think that they saw that and freaked out, so. With that being said, 45 seconds till Baron spawns. Like you mentioned, Dragon will be spawning in just a second here as well. Let's go ahead and take a quick look and see which kind of dragon it is going to be. Ooh. It is going to be an Ocean Drake respawning there. And with that, immediately Fallen Gaming rotates 3 of their members down towards this bottom side of the map.
This is actually a pretty good dragon for Fallen Gaming to pick up just because of how much sieging and how much poke 8K Gaming has. If they're able to secure it, then they'll be able to sustain a lot of the plays right here, but definitely not going to be going out. Nice steal right
It
there.
is going to be an amazing steal coming out by Drops, though. Is able to pick that one up for himself with the full combo. Neatnik trying to keep this one going. Sasuke uses the Cataclysm and immediately flashes out, though. I feel like I'm probably a second behind you in terms of where this game is going, so I'm going to go ahead and speed forward for the rest of the stream to catch up. But go ahead and break that one down for me.
Yeah, so it was just, Lux on her own is already a really good stealing champion for neutral objectives, but as you'll see on the stream, just the burst damage from Gragas and Lux coming in smites that from like a little bit over 1,000 plus everything else. It's just impossible for you to really be able to catch up with that. Jarvan went in with the Cataclysm to try to kind of stall out that fight, but the Shen ulti, the Rakan coming in with the quickness as well, dissuaded any kind of fight that they wanted to have. So just really, intelligent usage of the ultimates, really good comboing of their abilities together. And honestly, even with all of that steal attempt, they took a couple members pretty low as well.
Yeah, and that's just the power of the combo between Lux and Gragas. You were mentioning double barrel smite plus the final spark coming out from Boone. It's just so much damage that can be comboed together all at once. Being able to pick up that Ocean Drake. And you were saying it's going to be good for the side of Fallen Gaming, but it could be just as great for AK Gaming playing that poke comp. They're going to want the mana regen on Lux onto the Ezreal, be able to constantly be throwing out these abilities, looking for the harass on their opponents. And on top of that, if they get jumped on, are able to back away from the play there, it means they're going to be able to heal back up and continue the siege.
Yeah, and it's definitely more of like the lost potential rather than the gained addition for 8K Gaming, just because if Fallen Gaming had secured that, they have their own form of sustain. They have a way of dealing with this Lux, Gragas, and Ezreal poke, just because they won't be as pressured off of these neutral objectives. But yeah, even though the mana regen is really going to be nice for the Lux and the Ezreal, it's not going to be super important, I feel like, for the majority of the game. Just because I don't really feel like they use enough mana, especially with how much mana items.
Ooh, so much damage going down onto Mortal. He picks it up with the E. Great job by Boone. They're finding the pick. No spell shield used by the Morgana. Even has lasagnas available. It might have been something they purchased just as they went back to base there. But a fantastic pick off coming in by Boone in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I think a little bit lazy by Mortally Divine. Didn't expect himself to be killed right there, but as soon as he gets bound, you have to expect that the rest of that Lux combo is coming out, even if it was a little bit delayed outside of it. But just a really nice pick, and that gives them more of an avenue to look for plays on the top side of the map. They should be able to take down this outer tower up here, and because the Morgana, one of their primary wave clear is down, it's a pretty easy pickup for AK Gaming.
Yeah, not only are they going to be able to get that top lane turret for themselves, closing this gold difference, they're also going to be able to develop a lot of the ward coverage around this Baron pit. It is 23 minutes in the game. It is up and available if they want to go for something like that. Meanwhile, mid lane Boone also able to pick up this mid lane outer turret, which means they have now completely evened up the gold difference between these two teams. AK Gaming bringing this one back from what was a strong early game being shown out by Fallen Gaming. And now it's completely even once again.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we've kind of seen now as a pattern between these three games is I don't really feel like Fallen Gaming has made a lot of necessarily proactive plays. I feel like a lot of the plays that they have successfully made have more been on the back of 8K Gaming going for a play and maybe flubbing the execution, or not really doing it as cleanly as they could have. And because they have really good champions, they're able to kind of punish that play in a sense. Like even in the top lane where the Aatrox and the Jarvan were able to win out when the Morgana was roaming. It was a really good roam by Morgana, but if Gragas didn't really mess up his combo and had actually executed his abilities correctly, he would have been able to pick up the Aatrox and get the kill for that. So at least would have gone a 1-for-1 trade. It feels like 8K Gaming is making a lot more of the proactive plays around the map.
Oh, Great pick coming in on Void Bullet. Angel does not have the cleanse available for himself. Has to use the heal in order to keep himself alive and flash away. On top of that, Lord Skippy trying to get into this fight as well. Cataclysm keeping so many people locked in for this Aatrox to do so much damage, but Callie picks up the first kill. Mortally Divine responds immediately onto the enemy jungler. Aatrox trying to keep going forward, but Callie blinks away from that one. Try to keep going, flashes forward on the Lord Skippy, and will find the last auto attack in order to pick that one up. And is a 2-for-1 as this Dragon's going to be respawning in just a second.
Yeah, and they just immediately took out Void Bullet Angel from that fight before he even had a chance to do anything. Was able to Featherstorm the majority of the burst, but right at the end there, the True Shot Barrage tagging him, effectively taking him down to 0 HP out of the fight, unable to really rejoin. And just another proactive play by 8K Gaming, looking for these picks, knowing how to play these poke and pick champions really well, and they should be rewarded with this dragon, unless we want to see the side of Fallen Gaming go for any more aggressive plays. But you gotta believe that this will probably be theirs to take.
And this is going to be the third Mountain Drake going down for the game, which means if it's going to be picked up by either one of these teams, it will give them an advantage in terms of being able to take this Baron. Gragas does finally come over the wall, is able to smite that one away. Sasuke not quite able to get there in time for the steal, but it was so close there by AK Gaming, playing on the cusp's edge in order to pick that one up.
You have all three of them just dashing over the wall all at the same time, getting themselves out to safety. So because of that, they're able to pick up that second mountain, and very reminiscent of the dragons that we saw in this last game. However, the tempo very much different, a lot more in the favor of 8K Gaming. And, you know, honestly, with this Baron available, two mountain dragons to their name, 8K Gaming, I still don't know if they can actually do the Baron very quickly. They definitely need to be looking for picks, looking for poke before they try to attempt something like that. I think if they get a pick, they have the ability to start doing the Baron, but until they actually get to that point, I don't think that we'll probably be seeing them go for anything risky like that.
Yeah, and speaking of the Baron, ward coverage around there, not really too great for 8K Gaming. We're not going to see anything too risky coming out of them, as you mentioned, until they start looking for that play. That being said, we do have multiple members of 8K Gaming starting to gather around the top side of the map in order to start developing some of that ward coverage that they need in order to go for the play up there. And I like to see the proactive play coming out by them. They know that they have the second Mountain Drake here, which means, despite the fact that their DPS out of the AD carry isn't the best for Baron, they do have a significant buff from these Drakes in order to make it a little bit easier for them in order to pick up this neutral objective.
Yep, and Zaya now has that IE and the Essence Reaver completed, so she's on a pretty big AD power spike now. Probably going to be building some more attack speed for herself. So, you know, I still see it's going to be really difficult for her, just naturally because there is so much poke, there is so much burst damage on the side of 8K Gaming. It's going to be really difficult for her to be able to position well, and if she burns that Featherstorm too quickly in a fight, definitely can potentially be picked off. But looks like we're seeing
drops going forward. That was going to be Neat Nick using the ultimate, but Black Shield does come down onto Slayer MVX, keeping him safe for now. Ultimate from the Recon used, but that is a low cooldown, not the biggest of issues for 8K Gaming.
Yeah, and they also got the Leona ult out of it as well, so you know, trading ult for ult in that case isn't really that terrible, especially when they had to burn out that Black Shield as well. Shen for a little bit of a trade now in this bot side. And he is full armor. There is no way that the Aatrox is going to have a chance to really kill him at all. I just don't see that these top laners are really going to be going for each other. It's mostly just trying to get that side lane priority. Nice thing is that Shadowy Figure always has that extra teleport, that stand united to be able to join his team whenever they want to look for a play. And just the regular teleport advantage as well. So if they want to force a play, if they want to try to do something, they could very easily collapse on a 5v4 with that Shen.
Yeah, and on top of the teleport advantage that he has, Shen never being able to go down in the side lane. Even if you send an extra member down there, it'd be quite difficult in order to pick up the kill. But Lord Skippy, if he starts pushing out this wave a little too far, he is a lot squishier and a lot more susceptible to being one-shotted than our tank Shen. And he is starting to slowly get these waves pushed out, slowly trying to get the push advantage for himself. Meanwhile, top side, a lot of back and forth, a lot of tension around this Baron pit as neither one of these teams wants to relieve the ward pressure.
And that was just a blind ultimate from the Lux. It looks like now they're going to be starting up a play. They recognize that the teleport advantage is in their favor, and because of that, Aatrox backs and starts heading over to this Dragon Pit. Don't expect them to really fully commit. They're just going to try to bait them in. Nice poke down onto them. Another Lux ulti as well.
Lux ultimate is used. Arcane Barrage does come out as well. Neatnik takes the Shen ultimate in order to keep himself alive from that dive. Drops. Has to use the Zhonya's in order to keep himself alive here. But a great kite out coming out by Fallen Gaming as nobody has fallen just quite yet. Void Bullet Angel also in the front. Finally has to use a Feather Storm just to prevent Shadowy Figure from continuing forward on him. Nobody falls down, but a lot of ultimates used across the board.
Yeah, and that's perfect. AK Gaming doesn't even need to get kills to be able to win the fight in that regard. They're very clearly just winning the battle in terms of the ultimates being blown proactively, in terms of the skills that are actually hitting and doing damage right now. Lux is sort of being this gatekeeper for the Baron, but I don't think that they're going to be able to get there in time. That double mountain paying dividends for 8K Gaming as they now pick up the Baron at 30 minutes and will be looking to try to push in and start breaking some of these inhib towers. Teleport being committed by the Shen down into by the Ezreal rather, down to the spot side. They're going to try to get and collect onto the Infernal Dragon. Actually, these are very similar dragon order that are coming out from this game. See though, looks like it's going to be picked up again, and yet again a mirror of dragons for this game.
Absolutely, a mirror dragons coming in. Infernal Drake going over to FG, which will be pretty important, I think, in terms of being able to help the try and swing some power back into their favor. They have not been coming out ahead in any of these team fights. Drops walking very far forward there, applying as much pressure as he can. They do have the Baron buff and are sending 5 people immediately down mid. This inhibitor, so much turret damage going down there to Kali. This Ezreal throws down the W and is able to chunk out that turret. And it looks like there's going to be nothing that Fallen Gaming can do to try and stop this one, as these Baron minions are just too scary alongside the harass coming out by AK.
Yeah, that's the double mountain dragon. Just doing even more work. The ult going out, but really difficult for them to go for any kind of
Inhibitor
fight.
falls to the team fight is finally starting to come out. Slayer MVX dropping extremely low. Blink forward from Kali trying to pick this one up, and the Arcane Barrage is going to be able to find the first kill of this fight. Neatnik finds the second one onto Lord Skippy, who threw himself into the thick of things trying to keep his support alive, but is the 3-man defense from Fallen Gaming here. The first Nexus turret goes down. The second Nexus turret will be dropping shortly as the Void Bullet Angel gets immediately deleted. Sasuk drops the Cataclysm to try and stall for time, but is not going to be enough. Stand United used once again. The second Nexus turret has finally fallen down, and that is going to be the third game picked up by AK Gaming here. They win this series in a commanding 3-0 fashion.
Yeah, and they are moving themselves onto OL Season 3 Finals now, going to be played next Monday. So really looking forward to this. I thought that 8K Gaming was definitely the better team coming into this series, but didn't expect them to 3-0. I thought this was going to be a lot closer in terms of game score between the two of them. But again, congratulations to 8K Gaming. Just really, I feel like overall in this series showed that they were the better team in terms of their macro and their team fighting.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. Something that we weren't able to necessarily discuss about right at the end of there was how they played this poke composition, using their cooldowns when they had them, constantly throwing out the Ezreal ult, throwing out the Lux ultimate. I think was a huge contributing factor to AK Gaming picking up this win here, because as you mentioned, they don't have to win the team fight the first time around, but Lux ultimate, Ezreal ultimate, Rakan ultimate on such low cooldowns compared to the Xayah, the Morgana, compared to the Leona even, a little bit closer there between the two supports, but the ability to just throw out this damage almost for free, especially for Lux on that 24-second cooldown later stages of the game, means that they're going to constantly be coming out with the health bar advantages and can look from the plays from there, knowing that their ultimate abilities are going to be back off of cooldown in case those team fights happen again. So it's something that they don't really have to fear going into those later stages of the game, is that they can just throw out abilities, get the damage down, and look from the objectives off of the health bar advantage rather than the kill advantage.
Yeah, and going into the finals now, 8K Gaming, very commanding win in this series. They had one pretty close game where I think they stumbled a little bit more in the mid game in that game 2, but Other than that, I feel like their first and third game of the series were pretty commanding victories just in terms of how they played the map and how aggressive they were. I really, really liked how proactive they were. Even when the plays got turned around, they were still the ones making those plays. They were trying to make the moves and get some pressure around the map. So, really looking forward to being able to see what they can do in the finals. And tomorrow we have our second semifinal between the Wildfire Penguins and Bubble Buddies. So they are going to be playing against one of those two teams. That series is going to be tomorrow at, I believe, 9:30 Eastern. So be sure to tune in for that very exciting semifinal as well.
Yeah, and with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a night here over at OL Stream. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to U.GG. Always got to give them a shout out at the end of the stream for sponsoring our series, our season 3 here. And we'll be back tomorrow, as Obongo said, with the second semifinals between Bubble Buddies and Wildfire Penguins. So we hope to see you guys here. It's going to be an hour later than normal, 9:30 EST. Obongo already mentioned this. Do you have any last words for our crowd?
No, just be sure to tune in, follow us, and follow OL on the Discord and the stream so you guys can get updates on what we're going to be doing for finals and all of the expansion tournaments, applicant tournaments, all the different things that we're going to be doing for the next season after the finals next week as well, so you guys can keep track of all of that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow at 9:30 EST, and good night.